beside C&M Embroidery, Lismonaghan, Letterkenny.
Celebrate Dad this Father's Day with a gift he'll love from Dunnes Stores. Like Ferrero 24 packs and Butler's Twist Wrap Truffles, now just €10 each. And keep him looking sharp with selected Gillette value packs like a Pro Glide razor handle and 7 blades pack, 2 for €38. Plus, you can save at the till with a €10.50 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used in next grocery shop of €50 or more.
Sure, there you have it. It's 9 o'clock and it's over to the big dog himself, Greg Hughes. The big D-O-double-G. What do they mean by that when they say that? The big D-O-double-G.
I think it's... Does anyone else say it?
No.
I think I say it. I don't know.
No.
Don't think I invented it. But
no, I don't think... No, you didn't invent it. It's a kind of American thing, is it?
It might be a... Yeah, I don't know. Sounds like... Feels like a bit of a minefield that I might not walk on. That
no,
one.
I think we better just maybe not, because there could be
that.
Something behind, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It just feels like...
Unless we know what we're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that then, will we?
Beep.
All right. Yeah, just in case.
Just back out.
Move on pretty quickly then, will we?
Have a great Monday, Lee. Take care of yourself. All right, 9 till noon show. It's good to be back for another week. Let's get a news update at 9 and cross over to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. An extension has been implemented on the public consultation of the revised IS 465 by the National Standards Authority of Ireland. The standard is used for the testing of defective concrete. It's off the back of a request made by Coleman Legal, the law firm representing thousands of homeowners affected by crumbling blocks. Emily Keegan reports.
The public consultation has been extended by 6 weeks until the 11th of July. Coleman Legal say they made a formal request acting on behalf of homeowners engaged in High Court action. They argued that more time was needed to allow affected families, engineers and advocates to meaningfully engage with the technical revisions. One major concern flagged is in relation to pyrrhotite. The draft amendment sets the acceptable limit of pyrrhotite in concrete at 0.3% by volume, which is 3 times higher than the 0.1% threshold set by the EU standard EN 174. 441. Coleman Legal are now urging homeowners engaged in the commercial court to make a submission under the public consultation.
More than €1.3 million has been set aside for the Disabled Persons Grant in Donegal. The grant helps make homes more suitable for older people and those with disabilities by allowing them to live independently. It also funds larger changes like extensions to ease overcrowding. In the past, a lack of occupational therapists to assess homes for adaptation applications have posed an issue for people in Donegal. Minister of State Charlie McConalogue says he's been engaging with the HSE in relation to the matter.
There has been challenges recently, and it's something I've been engaging with the HSE in relation to, and I know the HSE are trying to address a number of recruitment challenges at the moment, because obviously the support of an occupational therapist is important, particularly in relation to support for those with a particular disability, and indeed for people whose capacities have reduced as they age as well. So that's something that's going to be an important support alongside this, and there has been challenges recently which I know the HSE are working to address.
Women are facing significant delays in accessing free hormone replacement therapy. It comes just a week after the government launched its new scheme providing prescription HRT medications free of charge with a medical or drugs payment scheme card. While 93% of pharmacies have signed up to the scheme, the Irish Pharmacy Union says supply chain issues are leaving some women waiting weeks for treatment. IPU President, Donegal-based pharmacist Tom Murray says medicine shortages are not exclusive to HRT alone.
The two most popular brands, Estradot and Everel, they're both short in nearly every strength. I know that from the manufacturer of Estradot, they've said that to get sustainable supply, we could be looking at mid-2026.
Looking now to weather, cloudy with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, persistent and heavy at times. Highest temperatures of 13 to 14 degrees in moderate to fresh southwesterly breezes. That's all for now from the newsroom. Back with more at 10 o'clock.
Hold on tight, we're shaking things up at Eurospar. Getting great value just got easier with our new Super Easy Rewards app. Collect points for money off your shop and get great offers, all with the tap of your phone. Ready to shake it up? Visit the App Store and download today. Eurospar, your super easy supermarket.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very very good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9, Monday. It's the 9th of June 2025, and you're very welcome along to another 9 till noon show. In fact, the start of another week of the 9 till noon show. How are you all keeping? I really do genuinely hope you're all doing very well indeed, and it's great that you're with us here on the programme. Now, we've got loads lined up, loads of different issues. We're going to be talking about road safety and Muff, and we're going to be talking about all manners of stuff. So if you want to take part in the conversation, please do. The lines are open. 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp or text number. You can also give us a call on 07491 25,000. Lots of contacts made over the weekend by email, comments at highlandradio.com or on our Facebook pages. We really appreciate that. So we're chasing that stuff up, featuring some of that on the show today. And if there's something that you want to talk about, use those contacts. Now, great to have you listening, but you can also watch the show. We have a watch live button on our website. Just click that. You can watch the stream in your browser. If you're at home, work from home or work in the home, YouTube on your smart TV or Fire Stick means you can watch us in the corner of your front room, up on the wall above the fireplace, the exact same way you might watch this morning or something. But at least all the content here will be very local to you. And we're on Facebook and on the X platform as well. Right, let's look and see what's making the papers today. The Derry People Donegal News. As Donegal prepares for the summer influx of tourists, concerns are growing over the impact of short-term holiday lets on local housing availability, especially for families struggling to secure long-term rental accommodation. Donegal Councillor Jimmy Brogan has renewed calls for tighter regulation of platforms such as Airbnb, highlighting the growing number of properties being diverted from long-term rental in favour of more lucrative short-term stays. I think some people can do very well at that. I'm not sure often it's about that it's worth more money because, you know, there's a management situation. You have to be there to let people in. You have to be there to book them out often. You have to repair stuff. They might give you calls. You know, you have to get someone in to clean the property unless you're cleaning it yourself. Like maybe you're in the Airbnb sector. I don't think it is the money cow that some people think it is. I think really... and as I say, I'm open to correction on this, and I have no knowledge of it other than what I feel could be the case. I actually think maybe people are doing it because they feel they've got more control of their property, that they might not in the summer months even make as much as they might in long-term rent over the year, but they feel that they can go in and out of their property when they want, that they have a sense of more control over it. I'd be very interested if you're in that area, what your motivation is. Like, is it a money cow or is it because that's just how you choose to rent out your property? But Councillor Brogan says if you can make a couple of €1,000 a week on a house, you aren't going to let it out to a family for a couple of €1,000 a month, he said. It has a massive impact on the availability for housing for families to rent. The issue became particularly stark during major local events like the Donegal International Rally when prices for short-term stays soar. Councillor Brogan described one listing in Letterkenny that was advertised for a staggering €20,000 for Rally weekend. Even a brief summer season of short-term letting, he warned, can generate more income than a full year of long-term renting. Again, I'm not contradicting the councillor. I don't know the ins and outs of it. And this is Councillor Jimmy Brogan, by the way. I just sometimes I think it's not actually about making more money over a long-term rent. I think it's about maybe having more control over your property. But let us know. I'm just guessing. 086 60 25,000. Maybe you've got more of an insight into that. Like, what does more controls of the sector look like, though? Because lots of people sometimes, you know, they believe something needs to be done, but, you know, you need to drill down to it and say, right, well, what needs to be done? You know, and how are you going to tell someone who has their own property, maybe a second property, maybe they've inherited it or maybe they've invested, how are you going to tell someone what to do with it? They're paying property tax on it already. They're paying tax every which way. And now you sort of want to step in and say, well, you can't use your property that way. You have to use it another way. You know, it's one thing to identify a problem. It's another thing then to back maybe the solution. I'm not saying the councillor isn't. I'm just more generally in the wider conversation. 2 men have been jailed at Derry Crown Court for their part in what a judge described as systemic pattern of established behaviour to facilitate industrial-level environmental crime in relation to illegal dumping at Moyboy Road. Paul Doherty of Culmore Road and Jared Farmer of Westlake, both in Derry, had pleaded guilty to a series of waste management offences that occurred on dates between January 1st, 2011 and July 4th, 2013. In Doherty's case, and July 1st, 2007, on August 5th, 2013. In Farmer's case, the court was told that while the exact tonnage of waste was disputed, it ran to hundreds of thousands of tonnes, and the value would be somewhere around £30 million in relevant landfill charges and taxes. Big money at stake there. Big issues for the environment, though. Of course, we're going to need more investment into our infrastructure. You know, the country is growing. They're looking to add 20, 30, 40,000 houses. There are other pressures on the electricity grid, so it's going to require a lot of investment. Now, as you would know, sorry to be a moaning mini early on a Monday morning, but we pay some of the highest electricity prices in all of Europe. Well above the average and miles in front of the lowest. But we're going to be paying more. Electricity customers will have to help fund a quadrupling of investment in the power system over the next 5 years, and it still will not be enough to support the growth of data centres. ESB Networks has asked the energy regulator to approve investment of up to $13.4 billion to 2030, a major increase on the $4 billion spent in the last 5 years. However, the utility has warned that the huge spend, which will affect customers' bills, will cover only the expansion of the electricity grid to serve the increase in demand from new homes, electric vehicles and existing data centres. It will not support dozens of new data centres that are at the concept or planning stage and which government policy pledges to support. So they already, data centres, draw a substantial percentage of 21% of all electricity in the country, which is really quite remarkable because really, do we know what data centres are? I mean, they process data, we know that, right? But I mean, what impact does it have, beneficial impact does it have to us on a day-to-day? I suppose in terms of, you know, cloud storage and stuff like that, AI, that we probably see a benefit to it, but many people are paying for that. But 21% or 20%, 21% of all electricity in the country is currently used by data centres, and 31% of all power generated in this country by 2030 will be drawn by data centres as they power artificial intelligence. So it does feel a little bit unfair, does it? It's a question that we should then end up having to pay, you know, make them pay. What's in it for us? I mean, it's not AI for Ireland, it's AI for the world. What's in it for us? What's the dividend for this country being one of the main centres for data centres? You know, we're supposed to get something back from that, are we? Because we've got a colder climate and, you know, there's good space for them and, you know, the limited workforce are easy accessible for them. So, you know, why aren't we benefiting from being a data centre hub? Why are we paying effectively for them to draw 21% of our power now? Are you following the story of Greta Thunberg? She's an environmentalist, an environmental campaigner. It's in today's Irish Times and all the papers, in fact. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has told the Israeli military to stop a charity boat carrying activists, including Sweden's Greta Thunberg, who are planning to defy an Israeli blockade and reach Gaza. Well, now, overnight, the boat has been intercepted and they are being ferried to Israel, so it was never going to reach Gaza. Operated by pro-Palestinian Freedom Flotilla Coalition, the British-flagged Madeleine yacht set sail from Sicily on June 6th and yesterday evening was off the Egyptian coast, heading slowly towards the Gaza Strip, which is besieged by Israel. I instructed the IDF to act so that Madeleine does not reach Gaza, Mr. Katz said in a statement. But as I say, the IDF have already boarded it. They're taking it back to Israel. And they say they're going to make those on it watch video footage of the Hamas attacks on Israel from October 7th. The infamous October 7th attacks in 2023. So anyway, I presume, listen, the amount of food they had on that boat would make no impact whatsoever. Maybe they've achieved what they set out to do by having the conversation on the front pages. Let's go to the Irish Daily Mail this morning. And riotous scenes in the United States. National Guard soldiers arrived in Los Angeles yesterday to help regain order amid protests against raids seeking to tackle illegal immigration. The 2,000 troops were deployed by Donald Trump after tensions flared between activists and immigration and custom enforcement officers over the weekend. So you would know Donald Trump said that he was going to close the borders and he was going to do mass deportations. It's what he's doing, whether people like it or not. Well, a shopping centre and car were set alight on Saturday with several people being arrested in downtown Los Angeles and the nearby city of Paramount. Meanwhile, other vehicles have been destroyed during the demonstrations. California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom said the decision to have troops involved was purposefully inflammatory and warned it would only escalate tensions. Now, one thing I don't really understand, and as I say, I'm really open to understanding this, is these are people in this instance that have fled Mexico and have taken up refuge in the United States. And all the flags that you see in the footage that I've seen are people waving Mexican flags. So what is the logic of that? If you have sought a better life in a different country and you don't want to go back to the country that you fled, why in God's name are you waving the flag of that country unless your motivation is something else altogether? You know, I mean, the whole idea of moving to another country, I suppose, is for a better life, to improve yourself. So why are people that Trump wants to repatriate with Mexico burning up the United States, waving Mexican flags? I don't understand the connection there. I possibly do, but it does seem strange. Surely they should be waving American flags and saying, we want to stay here, please. You know, we'll be good boys and girls. But no, they're burning up America, waving Mexican flags to resist deportation back to Mexico. If you like the Mexican flag that much, go back to Mexico and make a life for yourself there, maybe. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, they're kind of repairing their relationship at the moment, but Elon Musk has PTSD from the White House and believes he made a mistake by helping Donald Trump get re-elected. His father has claimed, though, Elon Musk is so unstable that he's been effectively, sucking up to Donald Trump overnight on his X platform. Donald Trump said he had a drugs problem. It's crazy, really. Sometimes, you'd have to read history books 200 years on to find this stuff out, and they're doing it live on social media. Good news, I suppose. We're drinking less. This is the Irish Daily Star. Irish people are abandoning the booze, with the amount of alcohol being consumed dropping more than a third since 2001. Like, that's huge. A third less booze consumed in this country in just 24 years. And that long-term trend continued last year with a 4.5% drop in consumption on 2003. While Ireland was once known as a nation of drinkers, the country is now at an EU average in terms of alcohol consumption per head of population. Beer remains Ireland's most popular drink, capturing more than 43% of the market, with wine second place at 28%. I don't know if we're being priced out of drinking, or perhaps we're more aware of the potential dangers of it. But anyway, significant drop in the last quarter century in the amount of drink being consumed. 10 cattle have died in a freak lightning strike at an Irish farm. This is in The Sun this morning. The tragedy happened in the Butler's Bridge area of County Cavan. It's not a million miles away from here. The continental sucklers bred heifers took shelter under a tree in the middle of the field during heavy rain, but a bolt of lightning struck the ground, killing the herd of cattle instantly. The horror strike happened at around 8 p.m, just after a status yellow thunderstorm warning issued earlier had expired. There you go. Well, those warnings are only for guidance, but that's an awful lot. And there was a number of calves actually killed in a road traffic collision in Donegal, I think, late last week or over the weekend. Really quite bizarre. 4 or 5 or 6 of them killed in collision with a van. You just wonder how that could happen. It must have been some collision. And finally, in the Irish Daily Mirror, just in case your young people are on TikTok and you don't quite know what they're looking at, TikTok teen skincare routines could be putting Irish girls as young as 7 what's a child as young as 7 doing on TikTok? But anyway, as young as 7 at risk of lifelong skin allergies, research warned yesterday. One of the first studies to examine the potential risk and benefits found when teens on the platform say, "Get ready with me," it can be more harmful than they might realise. The findings published in the journal Pediatrics showed girls aged 7 to 18 are using on average of 6 products on their faces, with some using more than a dozen. Why? Your skin's only just growing and developing. So let me read that again. Girls aged 7 to 18 are using on average 6 products on their faces. Another study by a leading consultant dermatologist at the Blackrock Clinic in Dublin has also raised serious concerns. That's a story that sort of does the rounds. We did that previously, and we did also speak to a dermatologist in relation to that, who was really quite concerned themselves that younger girls particularly were damaging their skin. But as I say, these stories do the rounds, and it's back doing the rounds once again.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Get your home and garden summer ready with Watson Hire in Letterkenny. From lawnmowers to trimmers and compost to lawnmowers, they have everything you need to tidy, clean and green your space. If you're painting, inside or out, choose the best value paint in Donegal from top names like Fleetwood and Johnson's. Watson Hire, open 6 days a week at Lisnen and Letterkenny with great deals to have your home and garden looking their best. See watsonhire.ie.
Step out of the ordinary and into the new Lexus LBX, because this is the luxury compact SUV reimagined in every detail, where style, elegance and innovation define a new kind of driving experience. It's your world. Make it extraordinary. Experience the new LBX Hybrid at your Lexus retailer, available with a range of flexible payment options. Lexus. Experience amazing.
Your local dealer is Lexus Letterkenny.
To childproof your home, get down on your hands and knees to see what your toddler sees. Go from room to room and look for dangers. Do the same outside. Visit mychild.ie for advice on pregnancy, baby and toddler health.
If the medical experts get it wrong, everything changes. From misdiagnosis or delayed diagnosis to surgical injury or even poor treatment, all have physical, emotional and financial consequences. We're here to help. So if your treatment didn't go according to plan, speak to our experienced medical negligence team at McElhenney and Associates. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is
21 minutes past 9. Now we are going to Muff, and we're joined by Grania, who runs Crack on the Muff. Hi, Grania.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for joining us. Right, okay. There was an incident in Muff Village which really has brought into focus the need for traffic calming measures. Is that really the upshot of what we're talking about?
It is indeed, yes. There's been a number of incidents and a number of reports, huge number of speed going through the village. And just the weekend gone by has been the culmination. And we've realised we've reached the stage that something has to be done. And as you say, I run the Crack on Muff page, so I'm a point of contact for people. And I'm inundated with messages constantly. Obviously there's nothing I can do personally, but what can we do as a community to slow down the traffic? It's as simple as that. We need traffic to slow down through our village. I'm just come back into the house about 10 minutes ago from a walk, and it made me realise we're actually at the beginning and the end of the Wild Atlantic Way. So that alone tells you some of the influx of traffic we have in the village. We sometimes forget that Muff is a point where you begin or end the Wild Atlantic Way, let alone the inhabitants of Muff itself. So we're extremely busy day and night, 7 days a week.
And what is the issue here? Is it that it's a main thoroughfare, that it's a stretch of road that, people just think keep the foot down and onward?
Honestly, when you speak common sense, there is no sense to why people speed through the village. There is enough signage up to say you're entering the village. There's signage up to say there's a school on the outskirts of the village. There is traffic lights in the main street. There is no reason at all. I'm a big believer in common sense, and common sense has not been explored in the village of Muff in regards to traffic. I'm sure you're well aware that we've got huge businesses in the village. We're alive at the minute, very alive, and it's a lovely place to live. There's a very strong community in Muff. Everybody looks out for each other, but our roads are impacting everything. And even again, just when I was walking and musing it all this morning, we've got the Muff Sheltered Housing Complex right in the heart of the village where a number of elderly people live. Those elderly people walk our village streets daily. We've got the primary school, which my own 3 sons went to and walked to school every day. There's still endless children with parents walking to school every day, and yet the traffic is flying past.
Yeah,
so it's there to see visually that we have young and old walking our streets.
And the curbs are particularly low in much of Muff too, aren't they? So there's not an awful lot to protect pedestrians.
There's not, no.
Okay.
Like I say, it's just everything's very open.
Yeah, it is.
But it's a wide street.
I just think it just is straight, and I think just people, they might see the signage, but they're not discouraged by that and just keep their foot down. Grania, there was a recent incident, and it's only the most recent of instances that has brought all this back into focus again. Talk to me about it.
Well, the incident at the weekend just made people realise the hazard that can happen in the village. And if this were to happen again, if the incident would happen this weekend, this past weekend, were repeated, people might not escape as easily. We know there was injured people from the weekend, and thankfully they're going to recover. But next time, the incident might not allow someone to recover, and that's the worrying part. And I know one of the local businesses where the incident took place have a young son, and their friends had just walked past literally minutes before the incident happened. If those kids had stopped to talk or to play in that area at that time, who knows what the outcome would have been. So again, I just think this incident, it's not just this incident. This has obviously made people talk and make people speak out. So again, things happen and we have to do something about it. And like some people are asking me, I don't have the answers. I'm sure you saw I wrote a piece about speed ramps because people were telling me, can you put up a post? We need to have speed ramps. I'm aware we can't have speed ramps on a main road, but something needs to be done. Speed ramps are obviously just a symbol of what's to come. We need something to be there in place to slow down the traffic in the village.
All right, listen, thanks for that. I do appreciate it, Grania. That's Grania who runs the Crack on the Muff Facebook page. Terry is of Muff Barbers. He joins us on the programme as well. Hi, Terry.
Hi there.
She joins us. I beg your pardon, Terry. My mistake. Terri. Of course, I knew that. Hey, come here, Terry. You've got a bird's eye view. Travelling in and from work, chatting to your clients. What's your take on the speed of traffic through Muff?
Yeah, similar to Grania's. I work on the main street, so we just see cars zoom by all the time, and I actually happen to live on the other main street on the way out to Buncrana. So these are the two entries into the main street of Muff, and they are just so hazardous. It is scary how fast they go, and we both have speed signs to say, I think it's like 50 kilometers per hour, and they're going way above it, and there's so many children in our village, and it's just scary. It's really, really scary.
I mean, just on your side of the street there, Terry, you get the impression you're below the street. The footpath and the buildings seem particularly exposed, just the way the street is laid out. I mean, when any vehicles go past or the 18-wheelers go past, you must feel it your clients must feel it in the seats.
Yeah, you can feel the vibrations for sure when the traffic is passing by and the noise alone. But the thing that I'm really concerned about is I have a lot of children coming into the barbershop. I also have a blind man that comes into the barbershop and some of wheelchair. So the children are sometimes on bikes and stuff like that, and they don't have anywhere to cross, only way up at the pig area. So normally they're taking a chance when they're coming over from the shop, and they're just flying in from Derry and flying back out into Derry. So I'm just really afraid that there's going to be a big accident because of the speed.
Yeah, and
I would love it if there was some.
I mean, in terms of sort of near misses, brakes, horns, screeching, and actual instances, is it a regular occurrence as someone who's just right on
Yes,
the...
it is. Yes, it is. Even for myself, even crossing over every day to work, just there at the memorial shop, there is like two little tiny signs. It's two little stumps that are supposed to symbolize possible pedestrian walking. They're little tiny stumps, but nobody seems to know about them. So they don't even slow down to let you cross. You almost have to step out to get the traffic to stop to get across there. And sometimes, like I was saying, I have a client who is blind, and I have to walk him back over. And even though they see me with him and he has a stick, they very rarely slow down to let you cross.
Yeah. What do you think the solution might be? We'll tease it out with a local councillor shortly. But I mean, say for instance there were 3 pedestrian crossings similar to that they put in Ballybofey, for an example. Do you think that might change the driver behaviour? That if people who weren't familiar with it saw pelican crossings, 2 or 3 of them, that could have the effect of slowing traffic down? Or what about those flashing signs that tell you that you're exceeding the speed limit and to slow down? I'm a big fan of those. I think they're really effective. There's definitely stuff can be done, Terry. I don't think we can just say that, this is a main route, you can't do this, that and done. Because what are we waiting for? Someone literally to be maimed or killed.
That's exactly it. It's like there is always something that can be done. It's like, are they willing to do it? Like, this is a hazard, and you're right. It could be a death that can happen next. So before that happens, like, something should be in place, and like we could have the pedestrian walkways right outside my shop and the memorial shop and the garage. They could be more visible for people, like to symbolize there's a crossing here. They're also coming under there. There could be those like little speed signs, or like that tells you what speed you're going at, to give people awareness to slow down.
Yeah.
So
I just think really that the community, the local community, residential business, just want some help here, because
we really need help.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to.
We really need help.
All right. Listen, Terry, thank you very much for that. I'm going to be going to Councillor Terry Crossan shortly, but I want to bring Michelle in as well. Hi, Michelle.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. Right, what do you think needs to... Well, you describe what the traffic is like in Muff from your perspective.
Well, like, I'm from Muff most of my life, and it's always to me been a very peaceful and fairly quiet place to live. As the girls have said, we're very community orientated, but in recent years it's just obviously there's a massive build up, and why it's welcomed, of course, the traffic has become a lot more, but it is, the speeding is terrible, but apart from that, for me personally, what happened the other night was a catalyst to say, enough is enough.
Can you talk to me about what happened the other night?
Well, there was a very serious accident, or a smash, if you like. Now, I put a post up on Gráinne's Crack on Muff because it was my own uncle that was involved in it. So, while it was my uncle, if it had been anybody, I would have felt the same way. It really just, I suppose it made me feel angry to the point where, well, enough's enough. Like, there has to be something done. And in my post, I said that I'm calling for the people of Muff, a core group of us, to get together and to develop, whatever you want to call it, a village watch team, a community response team. I personally would be more than happy to be involved in that, and anyone who would like to do that can reach out. But I do think something is needed. It isn't just an individual problem. It's everybody that you talk to on a daily basis has got some experiences of what either, the traffic flying through the village. But apart from that, personally, my peace is disturbed constantly by what I can only describe as boy racers. This has become a massive issue. You're hearing whatever you call it, divin and donut, morning, noon and night. It could happen at any time.
I think there was a
lot of
particular.
villagers have
I've seen videos, haven't I, recently? I think it looks very familiar outside the Maxwell station there. They were
That's exactly
just
it. Yeah,
they were
the
just literally doing
junction.
whatever the hell they like. Nothing to do with the
Exactly,
business,
Greg.
but at that junction.
No, it could have been, like I say, that could have been 5 in the morning or whatever. But there's obviously people weren't these nearby, and it's more for me. It's inducing a feeling of fear, and like you're not safe in your the place that you live. And this was never the case in Muff. And while Grania said there is adequate signing, I personally don't really feel that. I feel that there should be a lot more signage, and I think as a group, there needs to be a core group established to get the likes of Terry Crossing on board and to contact, the roads executive to actually put solid action in place, not just talk about it and flit around it. We need to actually take action, like proper action.
Yeah.
And,
But the warnings have
for me
been.
as well-
How many more warnings do the powers that be need? Can I ask you, Michelle? You talked about the amount of time you've been in Muff, and it seems to be that you've been describing a worsening situation. Is it easy for you to identify sort of what's changed? Why is it more of an issue now than it might have been in the past?
Well, it just seems that everything's busier, life's busier, people are in a rush. I think it's a lot to do with this nearly mentality of people as well, and I think that has to be something that's addressed. While I'm not on here to slate anybody, I do think it has to be said there's a massive lack of an actual Garda presence in the village or in the surrounding area. And from what I know, I personally have had to ring twice because of the absolute noise pollution going on from where I am, and I couldn't pinpoint exactly where it was coming from, this Devon, if you like. And I did, ring both the Muff and the Buncrana Garda stations on both occasions, and sadly there was no answer. And I do know from talking to people that whatever's been recorded has been passed on and reported to the authorities, but I don't know, but it doesn't seem that anything is being done. There are people maybe that should be being spoken to about this, and I do think someone that was looking through the thread on Facebook and things like, there should be bigger penalties for people who are, committing these offences,
And I think
like
too,
us as a village.
I think enforcement, is would be very important here. A squad car, Garda car there. This is what I don't understand. Why we don't have a Garda car that can go outside problematic schools for half an hour? Outside Ramelton, people are contacting me from Ramelton now saying the problem's the same, or in Muff. Firstly, on the outside of the towns, put up these signs that say slow down, flashing, you're going too fast. And then a bit of enforcement, someone out with a speed gun. It's not like it's cost neutral, they'll make a few quid, but just to try and alter the behaviour that drivers feel that there is some peril of the law in abusing Muff. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case now. People feel they can do whatever they like. It's it's the Wild West almost. Not Muff and the people of Muff, on about the roads.
Yes, it just feels like there's a minority group who are completely lawless. They just can do what they want when they want, and why wouldn't they? Because no one's addressing it. No one's going to be there to reprimand them or do whatever. And I understand Muff as a sort of a main route, but I wouldn't dismiss the idea of speed bumps or whatever, because a friend was talking to me yesterday and she said, lorries pile down, past that Ardban area into the main village, and I do think speed bumps can slow people down.
I think if they don't want speed bumps, do what they did in Capri or other places, and people don't like it to begin with, but it slows traffic down. Enhance the footpaths. The footpaths need to be raised or enhanced so that they are actually some sort of a deterrent to cars. Narrow the road a little bit so the bigger vehicles do have to slow down. Stick up flashing signs so that those drivers that are compliant know what's going on and adjust their behaviour. Very, very simple stuff. I mean, yes, the ramps might be the job, but there's a ton of stuff that could be done to improve Muff as a whole, but to actually rebalance the villagers' lives versus the road traffic's lives. Just balance it, not.
I agree.
It's basic
Greg,
stuff, Michelle. It's not rocket science, and I
I
think Muff
agree, yeah.
deserves it for what it contributes with the businesses. You know, Maxwell, Muff Liquor, Centra's out there, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
Terry in a Barber's, Euro Exchange, all these businesses. You know, they deserve.
Exactly.
to be
you know,
to have
because
fair
it's
treatment.
it's a great village.
Borderland.
I mean, like Grania was saying, we're so community orientated. Everybody cares. We care about one another. You know, nobody wants to be living in a society where they're in fear. And you know, even like I've said, the speed alone. You know, even the noise and people coming out and doing what they want to do. It's inducing fear for everybody. And it's not an individual problem. It's a community issue. But together, I have every confidence that you know we can develop a core group and just sit and see what we can do going forward. You know, practical solutions and just keep at it, like, because you know we have to do something.
All right, well, stick
We
with it.
really
Keep
do.
us in the loop, Michelle. I think there's a start of something here with people like yourself
Yeah.
driving it. And, you know, we have this platform here. That's what we're here for as well. So any meetings that you're calling or whomever might be calling them or whatever, you know, let us know. We'll certainly let people know. And let's
you,
just
Greg.
hope
That's great.
it's let's just hope that something is done before it's too late. You know, I mean, we're not talking about fatalities, but you know, you get knocked down, your hip and knee plays up for the rest of your life. You know, there's serious consequences to some of the stuff we're talking about. All right, Michelle, thanks very much indeed. Look after yourself. Councillor Terry Crossan, I hope, is still with me. Are you there, Councillor?
Yes, I am. Greg.
Sorry to come to you last, Councillor, but you know, I thought it important that the ladies, you know, strong community-minded people, business people, people on the ground had an opportunity to sort of get their say, and they've outlined it really. They couldn't have done it any better. As a local rep, what are you going to do about this, or what have you been doing?
Well, I was travelling home from Glasgow on Friday evening, and I became aware of the incident when I saw some quite disturbing images on social media. And I'm now aware that there was a road traffic accident. There was a number of people injured, and I would like to convey my sentiments to them, and I wish them a very speedy recovery. I wouldn't want to comment further on the actual incident, as I believe it to be an ongoing investigation by Gardaí. So I feel it would be inappropriate to make any public comment on that. However, it has generated a lot of commentary about speed through the village. So, and this has been a concern of mine for many years. It was our group who actually got the traffic lights in place there. It took us actually 3 years or more to actually get that over the line. The village is becoming increasingly busy for traffic. It's a north-south arterial route. There is very heavy cross-border traffic. We're now in the a very important time for agriculture. There's an increased volume of very heavy agricultural traffic, so we have to be more careful than ever. But I have actually emailed and I've invited the senior roads engineer to come to visit the village and to actually engage and to speak with the businesses and residents to explore ways of addressing this very serious and growing problem. And I have emailed them today. I await their response, and as soon as I have that, I will put that response out into the public domain. On Saturday afternoon, I actually went and spoke to some of the individuals who were most impacted by it, and you know, there has been very serious damage. done to one of our most prominent businesses in the village, and you know, it is a total miracle that no one was actually killed.
Yeah, well, we go around the county, you know, and you can see, you know, roads being constructed, cycle lanes being constructed, investment happening all over the place. A lot of towns are getting attention. There's so much talk about active travel in Letterkenny and, you know, traffic calming measures in and around Ballybofey, Twin Towns, for an example. A lot of investment in footpaths and all that kind of stuff. Like, where's the attention for Muff? Where's the investment? Where's the plan for Muff? You know, this is going to get kicked between the Roads Executive of Donegal County Council and Transport Infrastructure Ireland for a decade, isn't it? I mean, what can be done in the interim to back the businesses, back the people, and get something actually done?
Yes, Greg, absolutely, and I agree, and I agree with an earlier individual. There is a total lack of Gardaí presence in our village. I was promised a number of years ago that the Garda, the actual Garda barracks would be opened on a more regular basis. That actually hasn't happened. It's opened very few times. There is very little visual Gardaí presence, and that needs to be improved.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, there are going to be those that are familiar with Muff, and they'll just bury the foot because they don't really care. But, you know, is there enough being done to advise the majority of responsible drivers to slow down? You know, there are different measures that have to be surely tried in the short term to try and ease the situation here. Even just to reduce the traffic on an average of 10 or 15 kilometres, you know, would be success. You know, however that's done. Like, we seem to be going from where we're at now to sort of the bells and whistles solution. Is there, from your experience, is there anything that the council can be doing in conjunction with An Garda Síochána in the next couple of weeks to reassure the people of Muff?
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. And I intend to get the roads engineers out here ASAP to engage directly and in a positive way with the people and with the businesses of Muff. And I hope that we can explore avenues. There needs to be positive input from the people, the residents, and from the businesses, but also the roads engineers need to take this all on board and make a positive response.
Yeah, all right. We shall follow it closely. Thank you. That's Councillor Terry Crossan there joining us, talking about the situation in Muff. Anna Connolly says there are dangerous drivers speeding on the roads and there are very few checkpoints. There are not enough speed checks to slow them down. I've been in a few instances where speed was an issue. Indeed, that's more generally speaking to issues. If Muff is so well known for speeding, then why aren't the speed vans operating there 24/7? There is one in Carndonagh nearly every day. Is it because NI drivers are more difficult to prosecute? Well, there's been a serious collision there now. I'm not sure. You'll have to excuse me. I don't know the ins and outs of it historically. But, you know, there is scope now to put a speed van there, I presume, by the criteria that's laid out. Maybe a speed van located there with some regularity would be not as welcome. I don't know. Road signs missing and dangerous bend signs overgrown on the Buncrana to Derry Road. That's a big issue. They have a live camera at a notorious diffing spot in Fintown, and offenders there have been brought to court. Yep, there is a diffing issue. There was certainly high-profile diffing instances there not so long ago. I'm not sure if it's every weekend, but this is just really, it reminds me a little bit like, it's like kind of like Brookles, and there are a few other towns. Duncanely springs to mind as well. But Duncanely, you know, it seems to be, whilst it also has its issues, the road seems to have been designed to encourage people to slow down. Muff doesn't seem to be like that. Anyway, if you want involved in that conversation, get in touch 08660 25000.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Beidir go gceapann tú nach orsa tá an fógra airceochta seo de chuid bhus éir an díorathe ach éis nó méid. Mas má le tománt agus bheith obair le daoine, tá míonach an tanna le bheith ar chuine den chéad glúin eile de hamánathe iontacha. Cuirmid ilúntort, íochamid thu agus tú a fálam, agus targamid tuarastal agus sochar iontacha dit freisin. An bhfuil spéise go dáin, tá mid ag arcú inis, mar sin ná bíoch muoilart. Cur iiritas isteach aniu ag careers.buséireann.ie. Bus Éireann, bí páirteach an.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years' experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no-obligation quotation on 91-32033.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
At Restex Beds, we are celebrating 50 incredible years in business. And we are introducing our brand new Glenveigh mattress, comfort that's as legendary as our half-century legacy. Experience 50 years of bedding excellence at Restex Beds, Mountaintop Letterkenny. Restex Beds, leave the rest to us.
Discover the charm of Maple Moville, your one-stop shop with something for everyone. Grab your favourite Costa Coffee Express, the only one in any showroom. Treat yourself to fresh home-baked goodies or indulge in creamy smooch ice cream and milkshakes made to order with real dairy ice cream. Whether you're planning a quiet night in or a weekend get-together, we've got your refreshments covered. Not forgetting our tasty deli, and you can fuel up with apple green. Maple Moville, fresh, convenient and local.
Planning a trip between Donegal and Glasgow this summer. Great news, Loganair is adding more flights. Fly Wednesdays from June 18th and Saturdays from July 5th. Enjoy more choice for your summer travel, plus a free 15kg bag. Book now at loganair.co.uk. Terms and conditions apply.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €2,200 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
This year, every organisation with over 50 employees must highlight the difference in pay between men and women, the gender pay gap. Because if we highlight it, we can all work to close it. So whether you work in boardrooms, showrooms, front rooms, stock rooms, or not in rooms at all, if you have 50 or more staff, you must report it by November 30th. Let's all highlight the difference to make a difference. Visit gov.ie/gender pay gap to learn more.
If you've got a smart meter, you should get an Electric Ireland smart meter plan too. Why? Because you can see a breakdown of your energy usage like never before. From heating, cooking, lighting and more. Now you can find out how much electricity you use by hour, day and type of appliance, making your usage clearer and your world brighter. Sign up to a smart meter plan at electricireland.ie. Smart meter required, T's and C's apply.
75 years ago, SEAT set out on a journey to create cars that move people in every sense. From the iconic Ibiza and Leon to the family-friendly Arona and Ateca SUVs, designed with style and practicality for those who expect more. Now to celebrate, you can avail of exclusive offers across the SEAT range at our 252 sales event this June. Find out more at your local SEAT retailer or visit seat.ie. SEAT. Expect more.
Your local SEAT dealer is DMG Motors, Clara Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 396.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Right, so the weather forecast. Cloudy with outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Persistent and heavy at times. Temperatures of 13 to 14 degrees in moderate to fresh southwesterly breezes. Councillor Michael McBride joins us on the show now, and it's off the back of news that the new pitch in Kilmacrennan had to be closed last week because of damage done to the walkway into it. It's the result of antisocial behaviour. Councillor McBride, it's horrible when we should be talking about, fantastic new facilities, because they're so hard got, aren't they, that instead we find ourselves having to try and discourage people from abusing those new facilities.
Good morning, Greg, and all your listeners there. As most there was some vandalism that took place there in Kilmacrennan, and it was on the pathway there from the N56 just above the Millbridge shop. It's a shortcut across onto the park where fencing boards and lights were damaged on it. So it's a bit unfortunate. I think we had a little bother there in the past, that it all settled down, and it just seems to have reared its head up again. The actual pitch itself, as from what I understand, has been closed due to fertilizer being spread on it and stuff like that, and probably will open up maybe next week or the week after again.
Yeah.
But like all these committees, Greg, they put in a lot of work to try and draw down grants, for the developments, and the committee there are very progressive. They've done a lot of work already, and they've already, I think it's 125,000 of sports capital grant to start working on building a clubhouse. And last week, no later than last week, they secured another 75,000 there for the try and put a gym in place. So there are a lot of people putting a lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of energy into it, and it's a bit unfortunate. So we have to appeal to the people that are involved in this.
Stop it, yeah. We have to highlight it, right? But we don't want to amplify it either. So there's been a couple of recent instances. As you say, there's maybe some stuff in the past, but this is it's a brand new community-focused shared space, and really any attack on this type of facility is an attack on the community. So whomever was responsible, jack it in, pack it in, and hopefully the guards will up their patrols in the area. They're pretty good at finding out who's responsible for this stuff. So, let's nip it in the bud, pack it in, and that when it reopens after the fertilizer and what have you, hopefully we'll not be talking about this type of stuff into the future, Michael. Is that the message?
I think that's absolutely right. You're getting into the time of year now that children are off school, and it's probably, for a few months now, the park will be used more than it does maybe for the rest of the year put together. I think, it's important that the parents feel that they're safe to go down there with their children, and indeed any of the children that's old enough to go there on their own, that they're safe going there and coming back. And look, I'm sure it's a real handful of people that's involved in it, but we're just appealing to them for the, just to put a bit of thought into what they're doing, and some appreciation for the people that are putting so much work into to provide a park in the local community, and it's a great asset there. So that's basically the message we want to get out there today, Greg.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thanks, Councillor Michael McBride. Good morning to Dolores, a regular viewer of the show on Facebook. Mike, Siobhan, imagine why to you too, Siobhan and Audrey, a regular viewer of the show. Ger on YouTube says, we have the same issue in Ramelton. Drivers ignoring the 50 kilometres per hour speed limit, entering and exiting the town. It's only a matter of time before a child is killed crossing the road to school. And then I mentioned the flashing speed signs, to which Ger, responded, Greg, we've the flashing speed signs coming into Ramelton from Milford, and it does nothing to stop the speeders. Nothing? Maybe. I don't know. Okay, but I just think, we need to not throw everything at it. That sounds like a waste, but, try stuff. You never know. It might change behaviour. 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text number. We've got loads to come for you over the next couple of hours here on the 9 till noon show. And I'll get to your comments that I haven't got to yet. But we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with the 10 o'clock news and the obituary notices. And we'll be back then on the 9 till noon show afterwards.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Since I switched to Hidden Hearing, I can hear it all. You could save up to €3,000 off invisible hearing aids. Save when you switch to us, upgrade, or save on your very first hearing aids. Pre-phone 1-800-370-000. Switch and save at hiddenhearing.ie. You should go to the hearing experts. T's and C's apply.
Instead of lying on the beach all summer, Lucy's spending every weekend watching children's football matches. But while other parents are screaming, advice, Lucy's dreaming about the barbecue waiting for her at home, full of delicious burger goodness from Aldi. Butcher's Selection Irish lean beef burgers, topped with specially selected burger slaw, all served on a toasted brioche bun. Because parents need a post-match meal too. Good food, good mood from Aldi.
TFI Local Link offers frequent, affordable and sustainable bus services, keeping rural communities in Ireland connected. Save up to 30% on fares when you use your TFI Leap card on eligible TFI Local Link services. For route and timetable information, visit transportforireland.ie.
Luxury is not merely seen or heard or even touched. True luxury is experienced. It lies in the minute details that elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary. It's quiet spoken, but leaves a lasting impression. You know it when you feel it. Luxury begins with L. Lexus. Experience amazing. Discover the all-electrified range at Lexus Letterkenny.
Ready for sunshine? Fly EasyJet from Belfast International Airport to a range of holiday destinations including Tenerife, Amsterdam, the Algarve, Barcelona and many more, which you can find in Belfast International Airport's summer schedule. Don't miss out, book today with EasyJet. Find your destination inspiration.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. The public consultation on the revised IS 465 by the National Standards Authority of Ireland has been extended for a number of weeks. The standard is used for the testing of defective concrete. The extension on the consultation period was requested by Coleman Legal, the law firm representing thousands of homeowners affected by crumbling blocks. With more, here's Emily Keegan.
The public consultation has been extended by 6 weeks until the 11th of July. Coleman Legal say they made a formal request acting on behalf of homeowners engaged in High Court action. They argued that more time was needed to allow affected families, engineers and advocates to meaningfully engage with the technical revisions. One major concern flagged is in relation to pyrrhotite. The draft amendment sets the acceptable limit of pyrrhotite in concrete at 0.3% by volume, which is 3 times higher than the 0.1% threshold set by the EU standard EN 17441. Coleman Legal are now urging homeowners engaged in the commercial court to make a submission under the public consultation.
Councillor Martin Harley has been elected Cathaoirleach of the Lifford-Stranorlar Municipal District. He last held the position 2 years ago. Councillor Harley was nominated by Councillor Patrick McGowan and seconded by Councillor Martin Scanlon. Councillor McGowan will take on the role of Las Cathaoirleach. There are renewed calls for traffic calming measures in Muff following a collision on Main Street on Friday evening. A man in his 20s was arrested following the 3-vehicle collision that happened at 8 o'clock. One of the drivers, a man in his 60s, was taken to hospital with injuries which are believed to be non-life-threatening. Grania runs the Crack on Muff Facebook page, and on today's 9 till noon show, she told Greg the situation could have been worse.
If the incident would happen this past weekend were repeated, people might not escape as easily. We know there was injured people from the weekend. Thankfully, they're going to recover. But next time, the incident might not allow someone to recover, and that's the worrying part. And I know one of the local businesses where the incident took place had a young son, and their friends had just walked past literally minutes before the incident happened. If those kids had stopped to talk or to play in that area at that time, who knows what the outcome would have been.
Women are facing significant delays in accessing free hormone replacement therapy. It comes just a week after the government launched its new scheme, providing prescription HRT medications free of charge with a medical or drugs payment scheme card. While 93% of pharmacies have signed up to the scheme, the Irish Pharmacy Union says supply chain issues are leaving some women waiting weeks for treatment. IPU President, Donegal-based pharmacist Tom Murray says medicine shortages are not exclusive to HRT.
The two most popular brands, Estradot and Everel, they're both short in nearly every strength. I know that from the manufacturer of Estradot, they've said that to get sustainable supply, we could be looking at mid-2026.
Minister of State Charlie McConalogue says the HSE is working to address recruitment shortages. It comes as 1.7 million has been confirmed for the Disabled Persons Grant in Donegal. It's the fourth largest allocation in the country. The funding will be used to see homes made more suitable for older people and those with disabilities. However, there have been long-term issues in getting applications over the line because of a shortage of occupational therapists to carry out the required assessments on homes. Minister McConalogue says he's been engaging with the HSE on the matter.
There has been challenges recently, and it's something I've been engaging with the HSE in relation to, and I know the HSE are trying to address a number of recruitment challenges at the moment, because obviously the support of an occupational therapist is important, particularly in relation to support for those with a particular disability, and indeed for people whose capacities have reduced as they age as well. So that's something that's going to be an important support alongside this, and there has been challenges recently which I know the HSE are working to address.
International Men's Week gets underway today. Men around the country are being reminded of the importance of not going it alone and to avail of supports if necessary. An Action Man manual is available both as hard copy and online on the Men's Health Forum's website. Pharmacist Sheena Mitchell is encouraging men not to be afraid to ask for help.
One area which just does remain highly concerning is mental health. I think it's important for men to step up for each other, and for women not to dismiss the kind of concerns their men in their lives may be having, and to encourage them to talk and to be open and to seek help when it's needed, because there is no weakness in seeking help. It's just the clever thing to do.
Weather forecast: cloudy with outbreaks of rain and drizzle, persistent and heavy at times. Top temperatures today 13 to 14 degrees Celsius in moderate to fresh southwesterly breezes. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 11 o'clock. In the interim, check all the latest news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
The Obituary notices this Monday morning, June 9th. The death has taken place of Pat O'Connor, Milltown Malin Road, Carndonagh. Removal from Kelly's funeral home, Carndonagh, today at 2 o'clock, going to his late residence. Funeral from there at 10:40am on Wednesday morning, going to the Sacred Heart Church, Carndonagh. For 11 o'clock, Requiem Mass, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. Requiem Mass can be viewed live on the parish webcam. Family time, please, from 10pm to 10am. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to Carndonagh Community Hospice Fund, care of any family member or Kelly's funeral directors. The death has taken place of Peter Wilson, Creevy, Carrigart. Peter will be reposing at his late residence today from 11am until 10pm. Removal from there to Carrigart Presbyterian Church for service of Thanksgiving at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Family time, please, on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only. Donations in lieu, if desired, to ICU Letterkenny in Galway, care of any family member or Seamus Gallagher Funeral Director, Carrigart. The death has taken place of Charlie McAwee, Letterbright, Cloughan, County Donegal, and formerly of Philadelphia, USA. Charlie's remains will repose at his home from 12 noon today. Rosary at 8 o'clock this evening, with family time from after the Rosary and on the morning of the funeral. Funeral Mass at 11am tomorrow morning in St Joseph's Church, Letterbrick, with burial afterwards in the family plot in Kilworra Cemetery. The death has occurred of Paddy Moore, 98 Church Road, Kellybegs. Removal from McBurty's funeral home this morning to St Mary of the Visitation Church, Kellybegs, for 11am funeral mass, with burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Mass will be streamed live on mcn.live. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to RNLI, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Bridget McGorry, Sharagore, Linsford, Buncrana. Removal from her late residence this morning at 10:30. Going to Star of the Sea Church, Desert Tegney, for Requiem Mass at 11am, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed on the parish YouTube channel. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Tá scéal féin ag gach gnólacht, agus tá an-post na sanolaithe seachada is fear an éireann ag cearr le níos mó gnólachtaí ceangal, trádal agus a bheith faoi rá scála níos mó. Tuair muinning do customary len ar service seachada lá or na bhórach. Sábháil fustas leis an Advantage Card, nó méadaí do gnólacht leis an mó riomhreachtála, a cheanglíonthú le customary an éireann agus níos fuide agéin. Fás le an-post commerce inniu. An-post commerce, ag buint fiabh semach.
You're very welcome back to the second hour. Oh, no, you're welcome into it. We've only just started it. The second hour of the 9 till noon show. And this Monday morning, the 9th of June, how's your students getting on heading out to their exams? Is it stressful? I haven't heard too much about it this year, so hopefully things are going relatively smoothly for everybody. There has been some little issues with one or two papers, I believe, and Dr. Joe Kelly is going to be joining us a little later on to discuss that. I don't like mentioning stuff that's coming up on the show menus because often things run away with us here, on certain topics and what have you that require a certain amount of time. So sometimes things get bumped. But no, we'll be talking about that a little later on and so much more besides. Thank you so much for texting in the numbers that you are. Very much appreciative. We're very lucky here on this show. I do know some other morning shows and they get nothing. And we're blessed. We have hundreds of you messaging in, people messaging in for the first time all the time. What about Buncrana, says a listener? There are pedestrian crossings in Buncrana and they have no markings. Despite political promises, nothing changed. Have you considered you're consuming AI propaganda to discredit the protesters, Greg? All the photos I've seen since this started, and I haven't seen a single Mexican flag. It's a dangerous world now with that stuff out there, letting those in power control whatever narrative they want with a few ChatGPT edits to a scene. It's video footage on the news that I saw. And there's one iconic photo, it's going to be iconic, of a person upon a car waving a Mexican flag. I generally try and research. I'm open to it, maybe. I hope I haven't been done by AI. But the only flags I was able to see at this time were Mexican flags. Who's letting their daughters buy this crap? This is cream for their faces and what have you. Seriously, modern parents need to take some responsibility and control their kids' actions and spending. This is ridiculous. Girls spending hundreds on youth face cream, boys spending $1,000 on FIFA. It's funny how things are split down the sexes, isn't it? Because I was like going, yeah, you're right about the girls. And then when you mentioned FIFA and boys, I was like, don't take FIFA from us. It's all we have. But I take your point. Like, seriously, they say, what are parents playing at? I've 4 under 18s of my own, and the worst they've managed is accidentally buying a game on the PlayStation that I was able to get refunded. I remember Aaron got hold of my phone, and I'm telling you, I'm still not loaded, but I was skint. You know when you run out, everyone, unfortunately, lots of people would know, but where, like, it's Monday and you're not getting paid till Friday, and you've like 70 quid. Do you remember post-dated checks? Jeez, that got us out of some holes. But anyway, when it's like that and it's tight, and Aaron got hold of my phone. He was playing a game on it, and I can't remember what age he was, but he ran up like 300 or 400 quid. Now, it wasn't able to be taken because there wasn't that much in the account, but that was it. So that was Monday. All the money was gone. So there was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I was in a battle with Google to try and get it refunded. I think until such time as one of your kids has done that, either on a PlayStation or on your phone, that's when you start putting password protection purchases on. A caller says, we all know why there's a lack of any type of accommodation, and the blame lies completely with politicians. So maybe the councillor should be doing something about that instead of telling people what to do with their property. Again, it is, they're going to miss the housing targets again. There's a shortage of housing. What do? We try and tell people what to do with their private property. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that. And the caller's probably correct. There is a bit of deflection going on here. Let's focus on those persons with a spare house or a rental property, and not on why the houses aren't being delivered by the state. Hi, I'm a healthcare worker for over 20 years throughout Donegal. I've seen in different settings abuse and neglect of older people. This has been going on for years. It's down to all staff, and especially the matrons, that don't act on any issues. And I've seen a matron lowered the falls in a nursing home before HICWA would do a visit. I will never work in a nursing home again. Since that expose on RTE, I've received 5 or 6 full-on serious. Now, my first instance is to say, right, refer that to the powers that be. But 5 or 6 proper cases of mistreatment of older people. Really hard to read, really hard to digest, to be honest with you. And I read a lot of stuff that's sent to me. And 5 or 6 might not seem a lot, but I'm one person with one show. Not everyone's going to contact me, and it's really, really worrying. It's really worrying. And a lot of families sort of know it went on, and they're in a sort of like a purgatory that they don't know how to progress it or what they do, or the person that was the victim of abuse has passed since, and they're living with it, and it's tough. It's tough. Good morning, Greg. I wonder if you'd have a discussion about staff participation in work social media. Interesting. I work in a shop, and recently they've created, in my opinion, ridiculous social media posts to sell products that they are demanding staff participate in. I personally don't have any social media accounts, and that was a deliberate decision. Do I have a right to refuse to take part in this? What a fascinating question. More and more businesses now are hopping on trends. A lot of it's on TikTok. And a lot of it is self-deprecating, you know, where you kind of make a little bit of a fool of yourself or you put yourself out there. So this person, excuse me, they themselves aren't on social media, but the local shop, they've either hired someone or they've got someone who's very interested in this on the staff, and they're starting to make these little videos, probably the trending stuff, I would imagine, I would guess. And I said, hey, some of it you have to put yourself out there. And the company's demanding that all staff participate. But this caller doesn't do social media. What do you do in that situation? Does she or he have the right to actually refuse to take part in these videos? I think you know the ones we're on about, don't you? And some of the businesses do great stuff, and I never considered that maybe some of the participants are unwilling participants. But it's a very interesting question. Any insight into that, let me know. 086 60 25,000. Now, before Monday's bingo numbers, I want to play a couple of requests, if that's okay with you. Starting with a good morning to Father Kieran McAteer in Ballabafay, who celebrated his Golden Jubilee yesterday, and a massive thanks to the Villa Rose for the beautiful celebrations from the O'Donnell family in Ballabafay. What a wonderful milestone, Father Kieran McAteer. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It's a year, though, isn't it, your Golden Jubilee? I don't know, I presume it is. And the Villa Rose, of course, they looked after you. They do great work out there in Ballabafay and elsewhere. And I want to say, play a request for Sean Martin in Kerrykill, celebrating a special birthday today. Not telling us what it is, Sean, but that doesn't matter. Best wishes from Seamus and from Susan.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 9th of June. You're playing on the green sheet for the daily prize of €600. The reference number is S16. It's game number 24. The numbers are 61, 50, 54, 67, 23, 65, 36, 77, 2, and finally 71. Phone your claim to 9104833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
New store, new project. Your new B&Q and TradePoint Letterkenny is now open. Dreaming of a garden glow-up? Fresh colour for your walls? Or a new kitchen? Whatever you need for your next home improvement project, we're here to help at your new B&Q Letterkenny. Find us at Unit 4 Letterkenny Retail Park, Neil T. Blaney Road. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday. You can do it when you B&Q it.
Who's watching your home while you're asleep, at work, or on holiday? With the Sheridan Security Alarm System, you can be assured of round-the-clock monitoring. Our central monitoring station is on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, monitoring homes and businesses in the northwest for intruder, fire, panic, and medical signals, giving you the peace of mind you deserve. Sheridan Security Systems, Bonagee, Letterkenny, protecting what you value most. Call us for a free quotation on 9126 6025.
Books a bit messy? Payroll giving you headaches? Big Red Cloud, in partnership with Donegal Education and Training Board, is offering free online training courses in bookkeeping and payroll. Perfect for small business owners, startups, or even accountants looking to support their clients. The courses are flexible, certified, and designed for real-world needs. Visit bigredcloud.com/training to sign up. Free, certified, and at your own pace. Brought to you by Donegal ETB.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. So there was some positive advancements, it would seem, in the defective concrete block scheme. As announced last week, and any improvement is to be welcomed, isn't it? But if you were to look at the amount of homes rebuilt currently, or remediated for that matter, since the scheme in its various forms was launched, it's been estimated that it could take 178 years odd to rebuild the amount of homes that may well be affected by this. That would be at 30,000, which some might argue is conservative. Councillor Joy Beard of the 100% Redress Party is with me. Joy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Thank you so much for joining us. Right, Joy. So what is the issue here? Why is it the fact that the applications are clogged? Is it the fact that the majority of people are sitting on their hands to see what comes next? Why is progress so slow?
Yeah, well, I think those figures that you've just stated there, Greg, speak for itself. We've had 102 homes remediated or rebuilt since May. Now, I do have some more information on that as of this morning. Only 30 of those 102 homes have been option one demolished. So in the 5 years that, we've had two schemes running, in that time, we've only had 30 homes demolished. And as everybody knows, the science is there now, proving that every home has to be demolished, that the homes have been misdiagnosed. So those statistics speak for themselves. As far as why people aren't moving on, Greg, there's a lot of issues that people are facing moving on with this scheme. They're not moving on. There's a cap in place that's hindering a lot of homeowners from moving on. The grant payments are not covering the actual rebuild costs at the moment. Obviously, foundations are not included, which is a concern for families. And again, there's no access to any temporary accommodation. We're in the middle of a housing crisis, and we don't even have any temporary accommodation for people to move into. Then there's a big worry about the downgrading, obviously, of options from homeowners engineers being downgraded by the housing agency. That's causing a lot of concern. People are stressed enough. They don't need to go through that side of things as well, which is happening quite regularly. I suppose we have the excluded properties. I feel for those people that are excluded from this scheme as well. But a big thing is the upfront cost for anyone that's in a position financially to move on, Greg. Mm-hmm. They have to have the upfront cost to move on with this scheme.
And what are they? Because, Councillor, I often just sort of look at my own situation. Like, I have a mortgage. If my house had defective concrete, I would have to go and borrow, if it was like, I'd have to go and borrow 20, 30, 40 grand. I don't know how much, what is the upfront cost? Like, I'm quite normal. I certainly would not have access to money. It would be another loan on top of the mortgage, if I could get approval for it.
Yeah, I hear you, Greg, and I'm hearing this every single day of the week from families, wanting to move on, but financially they just can't because of the shortfall, because they know they need their foundations at a bare minimum tested at a cost before they decide to remove them. But you need to have an average 50,000 in your back pocket ready to pay builders, ready to pay deposits, ready to get the work moving on site. And this is something I've been pressing time and time again in the council, that we need upfront money to get people moving on, and this is something I intend to push for, because a lot of people don't have borrowing power, Greg. Let's be realistic about it. We've elderly people in these homes, and I've been in some of these homes, as we all probably have at this stage, and the conditions they're living in are absolutely horrendous. And those people do not see, those elderly people don't have the borrowing power, so therefore can't engage with this scheme.
And
they have no intention of engaging.
And also, too, if you do have the borrowing power, my understanding as well, say, for instance, with the likes of the derelict properties grant and what have you, that lending institutions generally don't like to consider grants as some sort of a collateral or proof of payment down the road. So you have to have, the credit rating, forgetting about what you might plan to do with the property.
Exactly.
So
I'll just give you an example, Greg,
please do.
I was actually speaking to over the weekend, if I may.
I would like
a gentleman has completed his rebuild, but in the meantime, he's had to put a stall on his mortgage. His mortgage company allowed him to stall his mortgage. Also, he had to then take out a loan of 50,000 from the credit union. So prior to finding out he had defective blocks, his monthly outgoing for his home was a mortgage of €495. As it stands today, now he has rebuilt his home, he's just coming in under €1,600 a month. to pay back loans, credit cards that he had to take out just to complete his home. And this is what he's facing. He's on his knees financially trying to furnish those loans and repayments. And that's the truth of it. And I'll be honest with you, Greg, when I'm in the council chamber and I hear government councillors telling me that this scheme is working, when I'm getting constant phone calls from people who are unable to move on with this scheme because of the financial implications, they're unable to move on with this scheme because of their mental health, it makes me so angry, because this scheme, they're basing this on the people that are moving through this scheme. You know,
no, I get that. I get that. I mean, listen, if you go through the planning permissions every week, there are a lot of houses in that are defective concrete block affected. There are builds ongoing and those that are being completed. So that is one take. But what I'm curious of, Joy, is how many people are working, how many people, their house, right, is externally banjaxed, okay, but it's livable. How many are sitting going, right, what if Sinn Féin get in the next election with their bells and whistles promises? Let's see how Coleman Legal's case gets on. You know, do you think a lot of people are sitting back waiting to see if a better option comes to the fore? I suspect, I have a feeling a lot of people are sitting back and waiting to see how things unfold in the medium term.
Yeah, that's true. And I have been speaking to a lot of those people. A lot of people mentally cannot deal with this, Greg. It is a massive thing to happen in your life. And even though we're looking at statistics here, we have to remember this is people's lives.
All right, Joe, you were sounding great. I'm not sure if you're on a headset or if your head moved, but if you could get as close to the mic so we can hear every word you're saying, Joy, that'd be great.
Yeah. Can you hear me now,
No,
Greg?
that's perfect. Continue,
Yeah. No worries. No, Greg, what I was just saying is, you know, people have their heads in the sand, a lot of them. You know, I've seen properties and I've visited properties where people think they haven't got an issue, and it's not my place to tell them that they potentially have a problem. And there's people, as you mentioned there, waiting to see how this scheme is panning out for people. But as I was saying, look, this scheme is not working for the majority of people because of the financial constraints, Greg, and because of the fact there's no temporary housing. This is something I've been pushing for a long, long time, that we can't deal with a humanitarian crisis without having the relevant supports in place. You know, when a humanitarian crisis happens, usually there's a response team put in place to handle it. You know, given various different levels, like your technical, your medical, your financial, your mental health. However, we have no emergency responses whatsoever, you know, for all these families and individuals that currently are living in horrendous conditions, you know, and they hear, you know, that the scheme's not working. They're talking to their neighbours, they're talking to their families, and they see that the scheme's not working for them. So therefore, like, we do have 3,242 online registrations, but the majority of them are not going anywhere. You know, they've not applied to the scheme and stuff. They've just registered on the website that they may have an issue. Like you stated in your initial introduction, you know, that, you know, 102 homes in 5 years. You know, like, this is an underestimate, 30,000 homes, because we have to remember, to this day, the government has never carried out a full assessment of how many homes are actually affected, how many community buildings are affected, how many rental properties are affected. And I honestly don't know how a government can claim to be dealing with a humanitarian crisis when it hasn't even attempted to measure the full extent of what's happening.
There are different people at different stages. You know, everyone, it's like, you know, it gets worse and worse and worse. Like, if you're in an SI house or if you're in a council house, you know, people would be going, well, geez, at least you've got a scheme that you can pick and choose whether you get involved in. Like, there's a whole raft of other people. Then we get to community centres, childcare facilities, farmhouses, you know, like, there are people listening on at this and going, I'd love to have a scheme that I don't fancy getting involved in. And that's, I don't mean that badly in any shape, way or form, but where is the people in crappy council houses? Where is the progress for them, for an example, or in the SI houses?
Well, as you know, Greg, I know you talk about this frequently on the show, like, we don't have a scheme in place yet for social houses. You know, our social houses, there's an estimated 2,000 social houses that are going to need remediated or rebuilt. And there's no scheme in place for those families, and they're living in just as bad a condition as what the private homeowners are. You know,
So what
we
is the
keep being
status
told
there, Joy? As far as you're aware, is this waiting for a diktat from the housing minister?
That's ultimately what we're waiting on. Since that, for 2 years, we've been told it's imminent. It's imminent. The social housing scheme is imminent. It's imminent. That's all we hear. And yet here we are 2 years later, you know, and people are still living in these homes and no plans afoot, Greg. Remember, there's no plans afoot as to where all these families are going to be housed. And that is a major issue. I've been pleading to get some kind of accommodation to get the worst people out of the unsafe homes they're living in. And sadly, nothing is forthcoming. We're in the middle of a housing crisis. We have a defective block crisis. This is a humanitarian crisis, and it simply isn't being dealt with the urgency that it needs.
All right,
And
okay.
that's the
Well,
sad reality.
if I'm sort of the Minister for Housing, I could be sitting in my office in Dublin and saying, right, I'm trying to progress this. I'm trying to revise IS 465, but there are those within the campaign that are calling for an extension for it. That extension has now been granted, which means the whole process is even further delayed now. I'm not saying that's my view at all. I think it's very important that we get any public consultation correct. But I wonder, will that be spun to say, right, you know, we were trying to progress things and it's you guys that are holding it up?
Yeah, I hear you, Greg. And as I say, I don't know the ins and outs of why that was delayed, to be honest.
Do you welcome it?
But at the end of the I'm not sure if I welcome it. I'm seeing the trauma with people in the homes, and I'm seeing the state of homes, anything that's going to delay this. But let's get it straight, Greg. We already have the European standard there that should be used, EN 12620. We shouldn't need a bespoke Irish standard. There's a standard already in place that could be used. You know, because of the delay, I'm just worried that homeowners are going to be left in these houses longer than they need to. And it has always been the only reason I stood for councillor was to try and get these people out of these unsafe homes, because I can see that what's going to happen coming down the line if we don't get the people out of these homes. And that is my ultimate concern, that something is going to happen in these homes. You know,
listen, I welcome the increase in the cap, right? But I mean, if someone finished just a day before that cap applies, what is it?
Yeah, the 29th of March 24, yeah.
24. I'm not going, well, you know,
yeah.
How do I progress now not knowing that I'm going to miss out on a cap? You know, why should I get myself in 50 grand of debt if that's reviewed again next year? Like, you know, there's no...
Yeah,
it's just for
that example I gave you, Greg, is a prime example. That gentleman thought that he would be eligible for the retrospective payment, and now because of that date, now he isn't going to be eligible for that retrospective payment, which means that loan he has out with the credit union, he's going to have to furnish that now. Whereas he thought everyone that engaged with this scheme, we have to remember early movers were not meant to be disadvantaged. And because he was one of the first to move along this scheme, he is now being disadvantaged because he did think that he would be eligible for any uplift, you know, in the rates or the cap. And now he isn't. And, you know, that has set him back now. He's going to have to furnish that loan and those credit card bills himself. He won't have that money coming in that he potentially thought he would have. So he's one of these ones. I think there's 43 people going to be left behind, Greg, as far as I know.
Yeah, but I was told, I asked the question if this cap increase, because I can only go by what I'm told, and I feel a little bit, I was told that the majority of people that this cap lift would benefit. From what you're saying, if 102 homes have been rebuilt, remediated, and 43 miss out, that's almost 50%. That's not the most at all. I know maybe we can include those that are ongoing, but that's almost half of people half of the people. That's not the majority of people. That's almost half the people are going to be sitting there going, I have to pay this 40, 50 grand loan now, and plus credit cards for the next 5 or 10 years. I'll be 70 when I get it paid off, as an example.
Yeah, right, okay. That's it, Greg. That is it. And those people are on their knees already financially, and they've been through an awful lot of trauma. We can't ignore the mental health impact of all this, you know, on everybody's family. You know, as I say, we're looking at statistics here, but these are lives that are being affected by this ultimately. You know.
Yeah, I mean, And you know, the funny thing is the whole conversation is about a tiny fraction of people that are actually properly, fully engaging in the scheme. The overwhelming majority aren't. So one question, I thought that there was social houses fixed in Buncrana, says a listener. Were the houses in Marion Park not fixed? I'm not sure if you know that particular case, Joy. I'm not putting you on the spot. But
no, I think some remediation work was done, Greg.
Yeah, they're doing a bit of that.
Yeah. Measure.
No, I know myself. Some cracks have been filled and damp painted over in some. We're talking about rebuilds or replacements. Okay, Joy, thanks for that. I do appreciate your time. Take care of yourself. That's Councillor Joy Baird there for 100% redress party. So Coleman Legal, that case there, the law firm representing thousands of homeowners affected by defective concrete blocks, they've welcomed the decision by the National Standards Authority of Ireland to extend the public consultation on the revised IS 465 standard by 6 weeks until the 11th of July. They've only received 400 comments. I don't think that's an awful lot at all, to be honest with you, on such a big issue. But I should say I've kind of suggested that maybe it might delay the process further. But the statement reads that this is a departure from standard procedure, but one designed to expedite finalisation of the revised standard. I'll wait and see that. Hopefully that's the case. But anyway. Right. Thanks so much to Joy.
Grab half-price broadband in the Virgin Media Playhouse. For this month only, all our broadband speeds are half price. That's lightning-fast connection from just €35 a month, locked in for 12 months with no activation fee. Why wait? Enjoy speeds from 500 megs to 5 gigs right now. All for half price. Available nationwide. See virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media. It's playtime.
Subject to location and availability. New customers only, €35 per month for 12 months for 500 meg broadband. Half price on 12-month broadband contracts only and based on after-offer prices for all speeds. Offer ends 2nd of July. T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie.
Northwest Regional College has launched its exciting range of part-time courses starting this September, and enrolments are now open. Whether it's a new skill or a new career direction, there's something on offer for everyone. We have hundreds of professional and technical course options to choose from. To find out more, visit nwrc.ac.uk/part-time. Enhance your career today by enrolling on a part-time course at Northwest Regional College.
New this week in Home Store and More. All outdoor heating is half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price outdoor heating is gone, it's gone. Also, all camping and all bath mats are still all half price. But when all the half price camping and all the half price bath mats are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Why leave the magic moments and great scenes you've captured sitting on your phone when you can have them printed at McGee's Chemist? Using McGee's website or one of their in-store kiosks, you just upload your photos, select the ones you want, and have them printed instantly within an hour, or use the 24-hour service. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed, and old photos can be digitally restored. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Listening to the housing segment, my heart is broken at the thought that we are going through this nightmare now to find out we may need to find 50k up front before anything happens. We're only at the very start of the process as we buried our heads in the sand and tried to patch things ourselves, and that's okay. You know, lots and lots of people did that, doubted that it could be that. When we are faced with major crises in life, we do have a tendency to protect ourselves, and that's all you did. Don't beat yourself up on it anyway. I had my house sampled February. They're saying 7 months for lab results to come back. Definitely has defective blocks as the samples fell apart when they were extracted. Morning, Greg. Can someone tell us why no council homes with defective concrete blocks are being repaired? It seems to be all private homes. None of our councillors, including 100% councillors, have an answer. Well, they're waiting on, and I'll put this question to the Housing Minister when he was up, that a scheme for council properties to be announced shortly, he said. The best person by far to help people with defective concrete houses was Charlie McConnell-Ogue. The DCB councillors and Charles Ward have done zero work except complain. Mr McConnell has continuously worked for this and got ministers to come up to the county, they say. Right, now, Dr. Joe Kelly, our historian and also a teacher, and we're going to be favouring the second cap, I think, in this conversation, joins us now. Good morning, Joe Magin. Why on Walter Gamai?
Hey, good morning to yourself and to all listening in Highland Radio.
Right, now, exams, the educational curriculum and the proposed direction of Irish education. Talk to me about this and why are we talking about it now? Why is now a pertinent time?
Well, what's happening at the moment, there's a massive change in Irish education, and in particularly in the last number of years, say since 2016, there's been a massive change in the whole direction of the junior cert, and now the progress into the leaving cert is going to start now this September. And so there's a whole debate about that and where we're going and why we're doing it, and what are the founding principles for this, what's it all about, why do we do it. And I think the day of parents leaving their children at the front door of the school and thinking all is well is rather naive. And I say that to parents and grandparents listening. You need to know what's happening in the education system, and all isn't as it might seem.
Well, we'll tease that out in a moment, but, you know, flags were raised in 23 and we spoke about Maths Paper 1. Just remind us of the controversy and our conversation at that time, because there's more concerns being expressed this year.
Well, look, it's very hard. I imagine that the State Examination Commission that set the papers, the SEC as it's called, gets it always right. They do amazing work, and they generally do get a good balance and fairness to them. And now and again, when something goes wrong, you know, you're using a hammer to crack a nut, so to speak. But in 2021, I remember being on your programme talking about the maths paper. It was a Friday evening, and it upset a lot of the Leaving Cert students, the paper 1 maths paper, and wondering was paper 2 going to be as bad. There was a question on it that just wasn't in line with what was being taught or what was on the curriculum. And again, we had something of this controversy last week with the English paper for junior cert, where they asked a short story question. Look, technically it's on the curriculum. I'm not an English teacher, but it's usually put alongside a novel. It's either or. But on this occasion, there was no either or. And so it was interesting how the Irish Times wrote it. And I quote that they said, like, some students were found short. It was like a curveball and unable to answer the question. I would argue that most students would have been in that position. And looking at what's happening online and what English teachers were saying, they were generally happy with the paper, but they weren't happy with that short question. And it's the first time that happened. But the SEC, the State Examination Commission, came back and said, look, it's within their right to do this. It's within the scope of the curriculum. And they talk about how they have a rigorous development of the process, etc. And so technically that is correct. But the thing is that it concerns me is it's something more fundamental than that. We have a new curriculum, for example, in junior cert, and we're now going to tamper with the leaving cert. And I have serious concerns as to the leaving cert programme that has been proposed. Helen McEntee is ploughing on. She's not looking left and right. She's ploughing on. And let's go back to the junior cert before we get to the leaving cert. Take, for example, the English exam paper. I don't know if parents are aware of this, but there are 12 questions normally, between 24 and 28 pages to be written in 2 hours. That is unbelievable pressure for even an adult to try to undertake 12 questions spanning over 24, 28 pages. And that includes having to read, comprehend, and then answer. And I think that's a serious problem. You go to history. I'm a history teacher. Again, you've usually 9 with some sub-questions to be answered in 2 hours. There's no ordinary or higher. It's common paper for history. And again, it extends over 24 pages. The pressure to do that is phenomenal. And again, I'm very concerned about that. Go to even the geography paper. And on the geography paper, I read it this year, the geography paper, and it says the questions do not all carry equal marks. So on the exam paper are questions, but there's no marks beside the questions. So a student doesn't know, is this question worth more than the next one? Should I be making 3 points or 4 points or 1 point? Do you know what it would remind you of? Donegal playing Mayo at the weekend, and the referee saying, no, we're not going to decide how many marks or points you get for scoring outside the D or what you get for a point or a goal. And when the game's over, over, we'll decide that, and we'll decide, for example, that if you score a goal, it's only 1 point. If you score a point over the bar, it's 3 points, and if you score outside the D, it's 2 points. Like, how in God's name?
Is there no argument that, you know, obviously you don't want to be so tough that it's unfair? Is there no argument that, you know, life is tough, and maybe the junior cert is where you sort of put it up to them and say, right, you know, sink or swim?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. But tough is not the same as being fair.
Yeah.
Being fair is giving them a fair crack at it and knowing this is what's expected. And if you don't meet that standard, then the axe will fall on the result, so to speak. But I think it's very, very disingenuous. Another example of the failure of the junior cert curriculum is for Irish, and I'm an Irish teacher, and we've said this again and again and again, and we're getting nowhere. And like our own school, and I don't want to be particularly isolating talking about my own, but we realise this problem, and we're carrying on irrespective in trying to create oral Irish within the junior cert curriculum. It's worth 40% of the Leaving Cert exam. The wisdom of the Department of Education was to remove the oral exam from the junior cert. So there's no oral component.
That makes no sense at all.
And yet you go to the Leaving Cert and it's worth, this is what I'm saying, there's no joint up thinking. So what I'm trying to say is...
These aren't siloed. One exam really should be seen as the beginning of the next. That I haven't phrased that correctly, but you know what I mean? It should be a transition from one to other.
So what we have false already in the junior cert program. And what they're going to do now is take that model and implement that into the Leaving Cert. So the weaknesses that are already there are going to be exasperated going through to the Leaving Cert. And so it's no surprise. I know the TUI have accepted the new proposals for the curriculum that is to start in September. But the ASTI, which I'm a member of, in the majority, voted against it and said, no, we're not accepting this. It's happening too fast. There's no joint up thinking.
Can I say one thing just in relation to it? When a union is considering these type of changes, is it purely based on those changes proposed, or is it tied into other things? What I'm trying to get at is if are there other issues in teaching that a union might let something like this over the line because it might benefit them in another area? I would hope that any union that's deciding on issues like this, it's completely separate from anything else, any pay conversations, any terms and conditions, that it is only just about what is the best exam for our students.
I would hope it would be that, but there's a 5% pay increase tied into accepting it. So,
but that's fundamentally flawed, Joe, because that means that it does. I'm not saying it changes why people might vote a certain way, but it certainly casts a suspicious cloud over it. We're here trying to get the best for our kids, not the best for our pay packets.
Well, do you see, the thing is, I'm riding both sides here.
Oh yeah, I know that. I'm sorry about that, but you know.
No. But what I'm saying is the curriculum. What I mean by this is I understand what you're saying, but the curriculum needs to be redeveloped. There's no doubt about that. Science books that were going 20 years ago are out of date with the technology we have today. Yeah. A great man.
Can I ask? Can you hold that thought, because I'm going to get sacked if I don't take my ads. I want to come back and get that thought, and then I actually want to talk about this Be Kind policy, which I'm not familiar with. Help me with the pronunciation. By Canalta?
Be Canalta, yeah. Be Canalta, be kind. 100%.
Okay, Be Canalta till I get back.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Celebrate your love at the award-winning Villa Rose Hotel and Spa Ballybuffet. The elegant Cadbury Suite hosts up to 300 guests with a private garden and romantic stone cottage for unforgettable wedding photos. Experience exceptional service that turns your dream wedding into reality. Visit villarose.ie to start planning.
Fly EasyJet from City of Derry Airport to Edinburgh, Liverpool, or now from the 1st of September, Birmingham. Book now at easyjet.com. Get out there.
Are you renovating your home or moving house? Either way, it may require a clear out. Before you fill your skip with items you no longer need, think circular and ask yourself, can the item be reused, given to family or friends, recycled, donated to charity, or even sold? So think before you skip it. Go to mywaste.ie for help and suggestions on how to do a clear out in an efficient and circular way. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Go electric during our 252 event and discover our full range of rewired iconic Ford cars, including the all-electric Explorer, the all-new Capri, and the Puma has gone fully electric, starting from €29,900. Ford have gone electric. Ireland is going electric. So what's stopping you? Go electric. Book your test drive at Ford.ie. Offer ends 15th of June. Price includes grant and BRT relief and excludes delivery and related charges. T's and C's apply.
Brian McCormick Sports. New Hoka trainers in-store and online. Try the new Clifton 10, even softer as you take every stride. New range of colours for men and women. Different widths to suit your feet. Bondi 9. New colours for men and women. Take the Hoka challenge and see what fits you best. If you're road running or walking, maximise your comfort and support at Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Cloudy without breaks of rain and drizzle, persistent and heavy at times. Temperatures 13 to 14 degrees. Joe Kelly's with me. Joe, we're talking about the junior, senior cycles. We're talking about the second level education of our children, really, and beyond. And of course, there are those who are sitting these exams later in life. What were you going to say before the break, if you can still recall?
You were talking about B. Kennelta, the new policy that the Emma Foley, before the minister, before she... Norma Foley, before she left office before the election, she announced this new Be Kennelta programme. And it's amazing how the government do this all the time. They put an Irish word or two Irish words before a document and it sounds lovely, be kind. And that's what it is. And it's at the heart of it is about how we function as schools, be it national secondary schools or education system, and particularly in regards to bullying and things like that. But what I find offensive about the document is that it's more or less what I would say is we've had no choice but by diktat to accept it. But have we not been kind? Have I not been kind over my 20, 30 years teaching? Have other teachers not been kind? Have we been failing?
It's the problem, not though, that it can be hit and miss, Joe, like that you can get schools that excel in terms of controlling bullying and the life of students, but some schools really fail. So you try and bring everybody up. It's not to sort of say that you haven't done brilliant, but it's to ensure that everyone meets the standards that you've set. Well,
then there's a reflection then poorly on the Department of Education's inspectorate. You see, this is where it comes back to, again, you know, it reminds me a wee bit like, it's like the signs that you've seen probably on bog roads. I seen one up there, up in Mount Charles, up near a beach there. You couldn't even put a car on it or a tractor on them, but they have a sign up with the 4 white lines. This is what we do. We do all this signalling, virtue signalling, but we'll actually deliver nothing. If the Kigara inspectorate are doing their job, then they should find that school policies aren't up to scratch. But I would argue that most schools' policies have been up to scratch. And what I see to be Kennelta personally, and this is not a view that maybe, you know, that is reflective of any group or anything, but just my own personal view, it's all about DEI, diversity, inclusivity and equality. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a kind of it opens a door for zealot ideologies to be pushed through the education system, which we already have.
So in other words, if, say, for instance, it was about, I don't know, the thorny topic of gender, that you couldn't necessarily oppose it or speak out against it because you would not be being kind. Is that what you're saying? So that it muzzles anything alternative to the agenda.
Exactly. And therefore, you know, when you think of what we have with the whole Enoch Burke story, that won't happen elsewhere because you're breaking the Be Kennelta policy. So fundamentally, your conscience can't come into it. So there's a whole social engineering going on. And look, research has shown, for example, in Texas, which is the biggest African American population, has the second biggest Hispanic population, they have got rid of DEI. Because the research has shown that's diversity, inclusivity and equality, that it hasn't increased math scores, it hasn't increased reading, it hasn't created any more unity between cultures and peoples. And more importantly, the SAT tests, what they have in America, the Scholastic Aptitude Test, which has been going since 1927, actually has declined. And they've put all this money into DEI and found that it hasn't actually worked. And they're going back more to the 3 hours.
No, I mean, listen, again, this is another thorny subject, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you have a school population that changes and say, for instance, some of the students' first language isn't English, or English isn't used all of the time, and you try and adapt your curriculum to be inclusive to those people, invariably it's going to lower the standard across the board. I don't think that's controversial, but it has to, because you aren't, you know what I mean? You're adapting to accommodate, but that means that you're not then able. That means that those that can achieve to a higher standard aren't necessarily. Just stay where you are, John. A brief word from you, if you don't mind, John. But thank you for accepting the invite to talk to us. What's your quick comment on the exams and the state of exams?
Oh, good morning. How you doing? I think, to be honest, the education system's out of date. I think we're educating kids on, I would say the majority, I would even go and say as far as 80 to 90% of the stuff will never be used in their entire lives. Where we're missing out on is academic stuff that they'll need in every day, things that they're not able to do, such as load a dishwasher, empty a washing machine, hang out a washing outside, how to even operate a brush.
Cook
for themselves, of kids now, 100%. I think that, and the most importantly of all is communication skills. The majority of young people coming nowadays can't lift the head out of their phone to say hello to somebody if somebody says hello to them. I think we've lost it completely. Majority of education stuff, you can pick up your phone, you can ask Google. You can nearly wire a house now looking at internet videos and how to do, you know what I mean? I just think we're missing out on, we're drumming on stuff to them, and as I said, that we'll never use. But for me, I think it should be educating them on stuff that they'll need in everyday life.
I just wondered too, and I hope it's not the case, that we're not classifying the lack of communication skills because of mobile phones and what have you as something else, you know, putting names on things than really what it is about, us failing the education of our children.
Well, Greg, can I give you a very quick example? I had a young fellow out last week helping me to sand floors. I had an industrial sander hired to do the centre, but as you know yourself, it doesn't do around the edges. So I asked a young fellow, I said, I'll give you a few pounds, I'll give you a good day's salary. Could you come out and help me? And he goes, he was all excited. I was at his house for 9 o'clock. I took into consideration he was still young. I was there for 9. He wasn't ready to 11. And when we finally got to the job, I was showing him what to do. No bother at all. He got started. But there was one time where I stopped and I went upstairs. The sander was lying on its side, running, and he was on his phone.
Not ideal. That's common sense. You see, I do find myself, and I have to be careful with the examples I give because I have to go home. But I do find some common sense is that doesn't that. All right, John. Listen, thanks for your point. It's a good point made. I don't know what it is about the clock and you, Joe, but as soon as I start speaking to you, it seems to move at twice the speed. So do you want to wrap up on this issue in a minute?
Quickly, just John's point, and he makes it very, very well, a point, the idea that education should be moving with the times and it should enable students to do things in life. But what people need to remember that in any academic year, students spend about 1,200 hours at school. The 6,000 plus hours are not in school. And the skills that they need to be learning isn't necessarily the skills that can always be taught in the school, that there's a joint responsibility, that 6 times more time is spent outside the school than in the school, and there's a lot of learning to be done in that. But look, at the end of the day, what teachers are about is about encouragement and about giving people opportunities. And we have heard of GISH schools delivering equality in secondary schools. A great idea. It gives people, what you were talking about, standards falling. GISH encourages standards to rise. It's a brilliant policy, GISH as opposed to DEI. But I just want maybe to end with one wonderful story that people may appreciate. Canon Tommy Doherty, he was the Donegal Man of the Year. He was a parish priest of Dunfanaghy. When I used to teach in St. Eunan's, I used to go and visit him in the evenings. Himself and his sister Rose was his housekeeper. They were elderly at that stage, and I enjoyed many, many happy hours talking with them. But I remember him telling me the story as a young 12-year-old boy going to the steps of St. Eunan's College to do the entrance exam. And he didn't have Irish. And so there were 3 exams, English, Irish and maths, and he was going to fail Irish. So what was the point in him going in to do the exam? And he met his older brother that was in the school coming down the steps as he was going in, and the older brother says, "What are you doing up here?" He says, "Well, I'm doing the entrance exam." And at that time, there were very few secondary schools in Donegal. very, very few people got a secondary education. So he says, well, you're here, go on and do it. So Canon Doherty went in, and what did he do? He looked at the Irish paper and he couldn't understand a simple word in it. So he told me he opened up his A3 page, made an A3 page, folded out the two A4 page, and he says, I spent 45 minutes and I wrote the word ta, T-A fada, and I weaved Celtic design through it the whole 45 minutes. And when the exam was over, I closed over the paper and I handed it up. He actually was accepted into St. Eunan's. And he asked the lecturer, the professor that was there at the time, how did I pass that exam? And what the teacher told him, a wee boy with that much talent deserved to be given a chance in life. And so the message should always be, as teachers and as educators, is that we believe in the students and we give them a chance. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think it's like anything that we teach in schools. Whatever we decide to do has to have an awful lot of consultation. Teachers, students, parents, and we do have to take more of a role, I think, because what happens is someone puts up a tweet or a Facebook post saying, do you know this is being taught in school? And everyone panics and go, no, it can't happen, no, blah, blah. But what do you know about the curriculum? What do we know about the curriculum? Have we downloaded some of these documents and actually read them ourselves? No, we haven't. We just get angry because we trust one other person's opinion. Okay, Joe, as always, thank you very much indeed. Take care of yourself.
Imagine
why. That is Dr. Joe Kelly there, a teacher. Any views in relation to what Joe's talking about there? 086 60 25,000. That's the WhatsApp and text. Or give us a call on 07491 25,000. Some interesting comments coming in on various topics. There was an interesting question, and some of you messaged in about a listener. They've started doing some TikTok videos at work. They're in the workplace. They're not on social media themselves, but now they're being asked to participate, and they're kind of wondering, well, do I have an option? Can I not involve myself in such activity?
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And another interesting hour on the way. Don't go anywhere. Why would you tune away when we've got more great content for you from your region in a mo? Okay, let's get a news update at 11, and it's over to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Councillor Martin Harley has been elected as Cathaoirleach of the Lifford Northern Municipal District. He last held the position 2 years ago. Councillor Harley says he would like to see the MD transition back into in-person meetings, while Councillor Patrick McGowan will take on the role of last Cathaoirleach. Stormont's Agriculture Minister Andrew Muir has revealed he's received a death threat. He says it was passed on to the PSNI and the matter's being treated very seriously. The Minister says, though, he will not be intimidated from doing his job. A 100% redress councillor says progress on the remediation scheme for defective concrete is moving at a snail's pace. As of last month, 102 homes have been rebuilt, an increase of 14 from April. Councillor Joy Beard says the current rebuild rate of 14 homes per month means it could take 178.6 years to rebuild 30,000 homes. There's renewed calls for traffic calming measures in Muff following a collision on Friday evening. A man in his 20s was arrested following a 3-vehicle collision at 8 o'clock. One of the drivers, a man in his 60s, was taken to hospital with injuries which are believed to be non-life-threatening. Minister of State Charlie McConalogue says the HSE is working to address recruitment shortages. It comes as the government set aside €1.17 million for the Disabled Persons Grant in Donegal. Donegal was assigned the 4th largest allocation in Ireland. While the funding should be used to see homes made suitable for older people and those with disabilities, there's been chronic issues in getting applications over the line due to shortages of occupational therapists to carry out the required assessment on the houses. And finally, up to 100 local shops are closing down every year, according to a group representing newsagents. The Convenience Stores and Newsagents Association says at least 3 shops are shutting down every 2 weeks. The association says more businesses have folded since the COVID pandemic, with many reporting rising costs are contributing to their decision. That's all from now from the news desk. Back with more at 12 noon.
Sorry, I zoned out there. Were you struggling? You need to cough?
I just choked on my breath. I'm okay.
You choked on your breath?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a new one. Hopefully you'll be okay. Do I have to do the Heimlich for breath? No, you don't. I don't think so. Okay. Right, we're going to take a break. Stay right where you are. Back with more in the 9 till noon show. We're going to talk sport, actually, with Brendan Devaney, GEA specifically, because, of course, the DL debate is on later today. Relatively quiet weekend on the pitches locally, but plenty happening next weekend.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
There's any number of new cars out there, but do the numbers add up? With the stylish Peugeot 2008, Fastback 3008 and spacious 5008 electric and hybrid range, they really do. You'll enjoy up to €1,500 trade-in bonus, a free 3-year service plan, a 5-year warranty and a free home charger. Order your 252 Peugeot today at McGinley Motors, your main Peugeot dealer in County Donegal. Offer ends June 30th. Terms and conditions apply.
The law around organ donation is changing. From June 17th, every adult in Ireland will be considered an organ donor when they die. We're doing this to help save and transform lives, and you will have the power to choose what's right for you. Talk to your family and friends to make sure they know your wishes. Find out more about the change at gov.ie/organ donation. A message from the Government of Ireland.
The Chadwick Summer Sale is now on across 37 branches nationwide. Save €100 on the DeWalt 18-volt brushless combi drill, now an incredible €329. Save €160 on the Kiri Cool Touch Diverter shower, only €189. Pro Plus Classic Push Petrol Mower, now only €199. Plus loads more savings in doors and floors, paint, garden accessories, bathroom products and DIY. Visit your local branch or shop online at chadwicks.ie. Chadwicks.
Let's get it done!
Attention Donegal, Derry and Tyrone. PD Bathrooms and Tiles are proud to unveil our newest and most stunning showroom in Lisfannon Business Park, Buncrana. Located right opposite the Northwest Golf Course, we offer unbeatable quality and incredible value. For 30 years, we've been the experts in total refits, stocking and serving as the sole agent for many top brands. Visit us today and transform your space with the finest bathroom and tile solutions. Telephone 93 95 884. PD Bathrooms and Tiles, where excellence meets value. Lisfannon Business Park, Buncrana, F93H10F.
It's the Kerrykill Vintage Day this Saturday 14th. Enjoy a great family day with live music, children's fun, butter-making mascots, stilt walkers, vintage cars and tractors, and a fun dog show. That's the Kerrykill Vintage Day at the church grounds this Saturday from 12 noon. This ad is sponsored by Wurski's Eurospar and Ice Cream Parlour, Ramelton.
When the button comes off your jacket and you miss the bottom step of the stairs and then your bus and someone throws out your lunch and the boss needs help opening a PDF and your housemate wants to have a formal meeting about the electricity bill, you need a Cadbury snack. There's something about the delicious combination of smooth chocolate and crunchy biscuit that puts you in the mood for messing. And while we stand over the taste, Cadbury Snack is not responsible for any tomfoolery or jiggery-pokery that may occur in the process. Cadbury Snack. Start your messing.
Okay, welcome back to the programme. DL debate on tonight after 7. Brendan Devaney stuffing his face. Good morning, Brendan. How are you getting on?
I'm late with the Cheerios, my man. I've had a busy morning, you know.
Hey, Donegal 2 points, Mayo 2 points, Tyrone 2 points, Cavan 2 points, Donegal v Mayo, Tyrone v Cavan, both throwing in at the same time, all to play for. We're topping thanks to that rout, I suppose, in the end of Cavan. But there's a lot at stake, and you're going to be discussing the permutations on the show tonight, Brendan.
Yes, indeed. Even though we're sitting top, Greg, as you know, it matters little because it'll be head-to-head, which will decide it, which means Tyrone will beat Cavan. Listen, Cavan hasn't beaten them since 1948, and they hammered them earlier in the championship. Now, that can be a dangerous thing sometimes when you beat a team well. But what we're seeing in the championship, Greg, is the up-and-down nature of matches means that Tyrone got burned the last day by Mayo. They're going to come all guns blazing for poor Cavan, who really won't be able to contend with them. So Tyrone will top the group. So even though if we beat Mayo, which I'm hoping we do, and I'm confident we will, that'll still leave them top and going through. So we will have face a prelim quarter-final. Now, looking at the teams around there, you expect Monaghan to beat Down. So you're looking at the likes of potentially, a Louth or Down in that group. We could play in Group 1. it's anybody's game to see who can finish off that. So you have Meath, Roscommon, and Cork, and then I think from the other group it'll be Galway or Dublin. So they're the potentials that we could face.
If just to be clear, if we, God forbid, lost to Mayo, Tyrone beat Cavan, we still go through to the preliminaries, though, don't we? Third placed.
No.
Is it only 2 teams go through?
No, I'm only messing. I just thought I'd drop a wee bombshell on you there. No, we still go through, Rick. But listen, if we draw with Mayo, it's enough to put us into that. Listen, you want to be facing the third team down, yeah, but no. Listen, we would end up in 2, and the head-to-head with Cavan would mean that we're safe enough in. But the thing about it is, Rick, there's a lot to do with this. You don't want to go through just on the basis of having beaten Cavan on a head-to-head. You know, if we're going to have aspirations about, you know, challenging for Sam, we've got to be going and beating Mayo. That's the long and short of it. So,
because we're deep into the. I mean, we're you know, we're not quite at the business end, but you know, like, you don't want to be still in the building process. You need to be able to switch it on and put a good Mayo team away, wouldn't you? If you want to count yourself as a proper top 4 team, potential All-Ireland winners.
Yeah, I the Super Mayo, they're the most unpredictable team. I've watched them a couple of times this season. Very unimpressed with them. You know, I haven't seen them down in the league final the day that we played them. You know, we rested a lot of players. Looking at them, then playing the likes of Leitrim and Sligo, who really give them good games, and then they pulled out this performance against Galway, and they're like, right, wow, maybe this Mayo team have still something to offer. And then they go in Cavan, beat them well. And I'm trying to scratch my head thinking, right, forget about Mayo. Then they put in that performance against Tyrone. So I think what we're seeing in Championship is, Greg, that people can't play Championship every week. And we've too many Championship games. And players and squads are dropping the levels, because what we've seen, I think, particularly in Healy Park, was a great example. Mayo were playing Championship football and Tyrone weren't. And that's why Mayo beat them. Mayo came gunning, realising that if they lost to Tyrone, because of their head-to-head, they were out of the Championship. So they were playing Championship football. Whereas Tyrone, having beaten Donegal, assessing the table, knowing that Cavan last, there was nothing really for them to get charged.
That's
about.
a problem with the system, isn't it?
You should deliver a performance. But see, the problem is that the Championship was always a special game of thunder and blood and guts and everything on the line. Obviously, it was too much to have a team out on one day, and we decided to bring in the back door, and now we've evolved from something to something to something. At the minute, and I know it is changing, right, but there's too many Championship games for it to be Championship, and particularly with Donegal's run through Ulster, we are playing too many big games week in, week out. I know Jim and the lads will never use that as an excuse, but there's no, and I'm not saying it's just Donegal, but you can see it right across the board. When there's something on the line, you see an elevation from that team, which is understandable.
That makes sense.
So
that makes sense as to the unpredictably then of these round robin games. Then, you know, and it's a decent theory on it. It's that even though to us they might all seem like big games, really, you know, you have a team with a different attitude or mindset to another team, that it's all or nothing for one team, but, you know, there's options for another. That, of course, that makes sense. At the very highest level, when you talk about the 1 or 2% differences, that's going to factor in. And that's why we're for a lay person like me, I'm looking at results going, well, how does that make sense? Because look what happened last week. And you know what I'm on about. But it's a really interesting, approach to it, Brendan, and we'll explain a lot.
Yeah. How, Greg, is that Tyrone team that came and beat us in Balfay the same Tyrone team that was playing the week later?
Yeah.
Now, of course,
they're not
really. Because they see where the table is, and because it's Cavan, and because they've now beaten Donegal, they know that they're pretty much going to top that group. Whereas Mayo, if they lose, they're out. Their season's over. So I guess and when you look at even the background that, you know, their manager McStay taking ill and all the abuse that they got because of the performance against Cavan, you're looking at it now, of course that dressing room's going to be buzzing. And I think when it comes to Gaelic football, you need that bit of buzz in the dressing room. So while some teams have it, some teams haven't, that's why you're seeing the huge difference in the performance week on week.
Yeah, of course. Now you have Irish Times columnist Gordon Manning and John Gilday, a former county star as well, to discuss all the permutations there. But there's lots of interesting stories right across the divisions, or not the divisions, the groups as well. there's potential stories in all of them as well too. And, no team is necessarily, there are some teams who are out of it, but you get where I'm from. There's lots for you and the guys to sort of tease through in there. Obviously our group, but what else might come to pass?
Yeah, well, listen, I suppose you look at Armagh, the season they're having, they are firing warning shots out. They're setting 4 and they're going to go through, obviously, because even if Dublin won and say they lost their match to Galway, then they'll still top the group in the head-to-head. So they're flying, Kerry are flying, but again, the groups that they're in have kind of suited them. Monaghan going well, they're 4-4. That's a very interesting last game with Down. They've beaten Louth and Clare both very easily. So there's some great matches coming in these last games. And I suppose people are talking about the fact that on the last game, everybody has a chance. And that's why they're saying about only the last team goes through. But what it does in this last game, instead of teams being out of it, actually every team that's here has a chance to go through. And I think that's the reason why the GA organised the groups like this. Now, as I say, I think they realise there's too many games, Greg, and that's why the championship will be changing.
And you have an awful lot of games to remove 4 teams.
An awful lot of games. Yeah,
be able to get rid of 4 teams, right?
Yeah.
Now, another interesting element of this season has been the new rules. And we can all have our says and the players can have their says. But what I think is really interesting, and I don't think this is the first time you've done it either, just having a state of play so far with a couple of guys with the whistles on the show this evening. Talk to me about that feature.
Yeah, the men in the middle. Listen, vital men, Rick. And the sea change, I suppose, in refereeing has just been monumental. You talk about the new rules. Most people would bring up your 5 or 6 rule enhancements, they were called, of course. But, technically there was 47 new rules in there for referees. Now, that's a serious amount of stuff to get your head around. And as they're doing that, the biggest thing is the one from the sideline where if you abuse the official, it's 50 yards and more likely a score. So I think that has been such a... I think with different teams there, and you're like even at club level, there'd always be an odd boy who was well known for shouting and abusing and he'd be half been told to shut up. But now, if he's going to cost his team a score and potentially maybe cost them a lead or put them out of the championship, everybody now is on best behaviour in the line. So in many ways, that rule has allowed refs that wee bit of room to figure things out themselves. And there's been mistakes, particularly at club level, I think. I've heard them through anecdotally, and that's understandable with the amount of rules, right? And the fact the ref is on his own, different county where he has his umpires and officials and fourth official, and they're all mic'd up. So I think now, going into it, it'd be interesting to just talk to the boys about the club versus the county stuff that they'll be doing, because Enda McFeely and Mark Dorian would be our 2 main county officiated refs. So just be interested to see how the new rules are coming in for them and what they've made of it, and of course the transition and the club, which everybody's interested in.
Right, well, I would argue the build-up starts now. Donegal versus Mayo next weekend. It's going to be a cracker, I hope anyway. There's going to be lots of football on at the weekend. Really looking forward to it. Brendan's got Gordon Manning, Irish Times columnist, and our own John Gilday on the show, and that special feature on refs, Enda McFeely, Mark Dorian, and that and so much more besides. It's available for you to listen live at 7 p.m. after the news this evening, but also to podcast very shortly thereafter at any stage during the week at highlandradio.com. Brendan, thanks so much indeed, buddy.
Greg, you're looking bronze and beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because I'm outdoors, Thanks, though.
Yeah.
Appreciate
you're
it.
Welcome. I mean it.
You're looking go right yourself. You've got some Cheerios in your beard, though.
Oh, thanks.
I'll just cut him off. I don't want to give him an opportunity to reply.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
If you're looking to transform your home this summer, it's time to visit Foy's in Ballybuffet or Letterkenny, the Northwest's largest stockist of interior and exterior paint. Perfect for every project, big or small. Also at Foy's, you'll find the biggest selection of curtains, blinds, wallpapers and stunning fabrics with clearance discounts waiting to be snapped up. So don't miss out. Put a visit to Foy's on your list this June. See foys.ie.
The Irish Independent says the all-new Dacia Bigster offers style, comfort and agility. It's the big family car with big space, big tech, a big boot and big hybrid power with a not-so-big price tag. From an incredible €29,990 with low-cost finance options available. Visit your local Dacia dealer to find out more. Price excludes delivery and related charges. T's and C's apply, subject to lending criteria. Offers are limited. See dacia.ie.
Discover a new way to cook outdoors with the Ninja Woodfire Electric Barbecue Grill, now at Ben Sweeney Euronics. It's a grill, smoker and air fryer all in one, with 7 cooking functions, no charcoal, gas or flames needed. Woodfire technology delivers real smoky flavour anywhere, in the garden, patio or in the campsite. Weather resistant and ready year round. Get the Ninja Woodfire Electric Barbecue Grill at Ben Sweeney Euronics, Letterkenny and Dunlow.
Join Davita's home care team. We value individuality. We deliver care with compassion and respect. We will train you and support you every step of the way. But above all, we will empower you to make a meaningful difference every day. Your life, your way. Join Davita. Apply today at davita.ie or call your local Davita office.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is?
The time now is 18 minutes past 11. We're going to talk a bit of boxing now, and if you're a boxing fan, it was a very, very busy weekend. Some pretty interesting fights too. Callum Simpson was boxing at the weekend. He extended his unbeaten record in a stadium show. Wardley versus Hooney was really quite a remarkable contest as well. That was also on Saturday night. And then, if you don't mind, get up on Sunday morning and Opatea versus Scow, or whatever his second name is. Anyway, an undefeated Italian. Bit of a mismatch. But anyway, the point being, there was an awful lot of boxing on. And you can go back 40 years to a brilliant night where lots of people were huddled in front of a TV, or as we often did back in the day, particularly for the big heavyweight fights, out in the car listening to 5 Live if Mike Tyson or someone was boxing. Let's talk to Bobby, who's a boxing fan. Bobby, still enjoy the sport, or are you more focused on what you might see as a golden era of boxing?
Yes, I'm more at the back seat and hit the stage anyway, but at that time, 40 years ago, I was very involved with amateur boxing. And me and 2 brothers decided we'd go and see Barry McGuigan and Eusebio Pedrosa boxing for the world title over in Loftus Road Stadium in London. A great night it was.
And that was a big ordeal. There was no Ryanairs and all that kind of stuff then. This is 40 years ago. So it was a big deal to head over. It was. Yeah.
We took a car down to Bray to stay with an aunt of mine. We went over on the boat to Lansdowne. Is it Holyhead? We got the train up to London, and we stayed with some cousins of ours in London for the fight. So the fight was on a Saturday night, and it was in Loftus Road.
Loftus Road, okay.
I think there was about 20,000 the stadium held at that time, because it was definitely packed to the doors.
And what was the atmosphere like?
Oh, electric, so it was. Pedrosa fought the first round coming out through the crowd to the ring. And as well as that, I remember whenever the fight started, there was a seated stadium, seated for the fight. Everybody stood on the chairs. Nobody sat on the seats. They stood on the chairs. It was electric, so it was.
And what was the feeling going into? Pedrosa a bigger fighter. You know what I mean? Physically, I think he was bigger than McGuigan. Obviously, Barry McGuigan superbly conditioned and skilled. But going into that fight at the time, who was favourite? I can't seem to recall. I was pretty young at that stage.
I think Pedrosa was favourite, really, and it was very close fight all along. And really, at the end, you'd wonder who's going to win it, But I think McGuigan got the best on the night, But it was very, very close now, so it was.
And Did his father sing at the start of that? Remember he used to sing Danny Boy. Do you remember that? Did Barry McGuigan's dad?
Well, I knew Barry McGuigan from he was 11 years of age because I was involved in amateur boxing. And I don't recall if his father sang that night or not, but I recall in different fights in Belfast and places where his father was always at the ringside, and sometimes he did sing all right,
Yeah, I seem to recall that all right. So, an exciting fight, back and forth, all action. What was it like when the final bell? Well, not when the final bell went. When
it was ecstatic. So it was ecstatic at 21.
Yeah.
People were really behind him, and there was Irish people from Ireland, from all over the place, came to the fight.
Yeah. All right, and Barry's still very much involved in boxing. His son's one of the best trainers in Britain at the moment. But it's seated audience, no one sat, he's all stood up, and then I presume after that you just went back to your accommodation. That was the end of it then, yeah?
We celebrated Shirley, right? We celebrated Shirley with a great weekend we had,
Yeah.
But I say, I knew Barry from he was 11 years of age,
Yeah.
And I'm in boxing in Belfast and different places, and amateur boxing. And I mean some of the boys from our own club in Moncana, as I'm from Moncana, and one fellow in particular, Stephen Deary, boxed him as an amateur, and he was doing well with him in the first or second round. I think he realised it was Barry McGuigan. He was fighting, and he lost the fight. But I always said to him afterwards, if he'd kept going as an amateur, he would have beat him.
Yeah. Come here. Do you know when you watched him as an amateur? Can you see something? It's almost like a different sport to some extent, right? Bigger gloves, headgear, and what have you. Vests, I suppose, as well. Can you say hand on heart that when you saw him in action as an amateur, that you thought, right, this is a guy that can cross over and become a world champ?
Yes, as years went on, he got better and better, and there was very few amateur boxers then that would want to fight with him, So he got very strong, and as time went on, he got better and better, as I say, and he was an outstanding juvenile as well too, so he was,
And then I remember him losing the title, Bobby. Obviously, that was out far, and I don't know if you recall that. But we were talking about this last week, and my intention was to go back and check my memory. But I think it was Steve Cruz, and it was sweltering, and he didn't quite have the condition. I think his promoter handed the title over. It didn't, he didn't protect his fighter on that one. That seems to be my memory.
You remember the saying, "Thank you, Mr. Eastwood," the song it was.
Yes.
And my own recollection is Bernie Eastwood took him out to the heat in America and places like that, and it wasn't for him out there, and he lost the fight there,
Yeah. All right.
So
but still, what an amazing... it was actually an outdoor stadium. In my head, it was in the desert, but you can see it's absolutely roasting there. We're just having a look at it.
The temperatures were extremely high. I watched those fights on television, and he didn't have a chance, really,
All right, okay. But
it was great. It was great at the time. It was great at the time.
I presume you would put Barry McGuigan in as the best Irish boxer, would you?
Well, definitely at that time he was, definitely, right, he was, Steve Collins came along then.
Well, you see, I'm glad you mentioned Steve Collins, because I think he contributed so much to the sport. I just never thought he got the plaudits that he deserved, if you know what I mean. I mean, you'll remember down in, was it the... down Chris Eubanks, what's it called? The Mill, not Milltown. Oh, what's it called?
Mill Street. Yes.
What a night that was.
The Eurovision Song.
Hey,
Eurovision Song Contest.
That's right. You talk about the fight. You talk about the fight your boy had coming in to fight McGuigan. What about Chris Eubanks? Because back then they just packed people in, and the crowd was on the ring.
Chris Eubanks was a journeyman to that stage, so till he fought, and he psychologically he took that man out of that fight,
He pretended he was hypnotised, didn't he? He sat with the headphones on and the hood up, and it freaked Eubanks out. There's some brilliant memories, Bobby. What a fantastic!
That's boxing.
Yeah, exactly. What a fantastic memory to be able that you were able to say that you were there that night when Barry McGuigan became world champion. No one can ever.
Yes, I was there with two brothers, Eamon and Sean, my two brothers.
Lovely. What a great memory for you to have with them. All right, great
Yes.
stuff, Bobby. Thanks so much.
Thanks
All
very
right,
much.
Take
Anna.
care. Bye
Okay.
bye. All right, take
Right.
care. That is Bobby there, and as I say, brilliant weekend of boxing. If that's what you're into, some people see it as a bit of a nasty old sport, but anyway, each to their own. Right, let us take a break, and we're going to be talking Monday Focus in just a few moments. Stay where you are.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
The moment you got told the good news.
Rob, you made the panel.
When the lads added you into the group. Skipping nights out, missing the crack. Rewatching classics and learning new tricks. Being driven to the biggest game of your life by your mam. And then you finally come on in the 51st minute. It's the minor moments that last a lifetime. The Electric Ireland GAA Minor Championships. This is major.
New store, new project. Your new B&Q and TradePoint Letterkenny is now open. Dreaming of a garden glow-up, fresh colour for your walls, or a new kitchen? Whatever you need for your next home improvement project, we're here to help at your new B&Q Letterkenny. Find us at Unit 4 Letterkenny Retail Park, Neil T. Blaney Road. We're open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Sunday. You can do it when you B&Q it.
Sometimes you have to simply enhance what you have. Like the new Opel Mokka. With a new infotainment system, dash, and interior. It's had a little work done. After all, it's what's on the inside that counts. As with the outside, why mess with perfection? The new Opel Mokka. It's a head-turner. Available in petrol, hybrid and electric. Find out more at Manor Motors Opel. See manormotors.ie for details.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €2,200 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Injuries happen, illness strikes, but waiting in A&E doesn't have to be your only option. At Ophidia Letterkenny Minor Injuries and Illness Clinic, we treat everything from broken bones, cuts, burns, infections, rashes and more, with X-ray on site so you get answers fast. No appointments, no delays, just expert care right when you need it. Don't wait. Walk in today or visit ophidia.ie. Ophidia Letterkenny. Expert care without the wait.
Okay, now our Monday Focus focuses on and features Marie Gleeson, former captain in the Irish Navy. Good morning, Marie. How are you keeping?
Good morning. How are you? Great to talk to you.
Yeah, great to have you on the show. And the Donegal Women in Business Network are going to host at their special summer solstice on Thursday, the 26th of June at Oakfield Park. And Marie, you're going to be there. And talk to me about the sort of transferable skills and what you'll be talking about on the day.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely delighted and privileged to be asked to come up to such a special event. I suppose just a little bit about my background. I'm not sure if your listeners would be aware of it, but I served for just shy of 21 years in the Irish Navy. I was one of the first women to join and made my way from cadet to captain on board one of the ships. So a very interesting career journey, not what I was expecting as I'm a farmer's daughter from Tipperary. So a big transition there. So 6 years ago, I left the Navy and I suppose I had always thought that I would go into, a job in a multinational or a company, but actually ended up setting up my own business and I focus on leadership development and skills. I suppose particularly leading teams and then the resilience that's required, I suppose, especially with this event, to be an entrepreneur and to set up on your own and taking some of those military skills that we learned and transferring them across then and working with business and corporates in terms of how do they become more effective leading their teams and leading themselves, I suppose, as well.
Obviously, you excelled in a male-dominated area, and it's a conversation in terms of the treatment of women in our defence forces. It's a conversation that's still ongoing and will for some time. But how difficult in that environment is it for a woman to ascend from naval cadet to the captain of LAIFA?
Yeah, I suppose I can only speak to my own experience, and I know others would have had a very different experience to me, but I actually found life in the military to be fantastic. I got amazing opportunities. It was hard, it was tough, but I knew when I joined that, I suppose I've an uncle in the army, so I knew the physical side, the training was going to be tough. And I think probably growing up on a farm and playing a lot of sports when I was a kid, I think I went in with the attitude that, I was going in to do the job. And I must say I was very fortunate. I had a group, I suppose, a band of brothers and one sister, because there were 9 in my class when we were commissioned, 2 girls and 7 guys, and they were fantastic. And I think when I listen to some of the stories now, I definitely feel like, they minded us along the way to a certain extent. Like any brothers would. They were tough on us, but at the same time, nobody else was going to get to step in to be tough on us. And I got fantastic opportunities. I think the thing about the military is, the training is very across the board the same for everybody. So once you reach the bar and once you prove that you're good enough, you will be put into those senior positions and you'll get those opportunities. So my experience was that, working hard, working alongside my teammates gave me that opportunity to step into those senior roles. So I suppose it's a structured training environment, which I think is brilliant. And you've got great systems around you, which since I've started to work in the private sector, and particularly in the startup business world, those systems don't exist sometimes, or you're making them up as you go. So I really enjoyed the training. I had a fantastic opportunity. My personal perspective, I have 2 young girls. I have a 10-year-old and a 9-year-old. If one of them came back and told me they were thinking about the military as a career, I wouldn't put any blockers in their way, because I've traveled all over the world. I got to serve in Chad with the United Nations. I've been on amazing operations, so phenomenal life experience. So for me, a very positive experience, but again, acknowledging not the same for everybody.
Of course, and I understand that, and not wishing in any way to try and cast shade on what was a positive experience for you. But I am curious, and I must ask, as you sort of progress in the army to positions of authority or even as high as captain, did you feel at any point that you had to work harder to gain the respect that a male colleague might, or is the structures of the army is such that it's drilled into people that you respect your commander regardless of what sex they are?
I think my experience was that twofolded. One, probably, the Navy had only taken women a couple of years before I joined, so there were very few of us. There were probably only 25 or 30 women out of 1,200 when I started, and very few cadets. So I was the 4th or 5th cadet, female cadet, so very small in terms of numbers. So I think whilst nobody said it to me directly, I definitely felt myself subconsciously or overtly that I needed to do more, and I needed to not mess up, and I needed to, never give someone the opportunity to say I couldn't do it because I was a girl. So I think I put a huge amount of pressure on myself. And as I said, I can't recall anybody ever saying it to me, but I felt it. But I think it was more me driving that I wouldn't let the side down in some respects. So I would hope that has moved on now for girls and women that are joining now. And then on the other side of it, when I joined in the 90s, we were probably coming away from that kind of the end of that master and commander style of leadership, where the captain was this really senior person that was a god and nobody really had access to them. And, when you saw them, you stood to attention, and, you didn't speak until you were spoken to. And that changed hugely in my time. So by the time I took command of the LEFA in 2013, you had the rank and the power that came with it, but you earned the respect. So I think both male and female, I was dealing with a very different cohort of people. So back in the day, 17, 18-year-olds joined the military, and they were formed and shaped in the military. Whereas I had crew members, because again, we were in the depths of the last recession. So I had fully qualified teachers working as communication operatives. I had fully qualified mechanical engineers working as heavy diesel fitters, mechanics in the engine room. And those people had huge life experience behind them. So they weren't naive 17 and 18-year-olds. These were 25, 26, 27-year-olds with families, with experience. So you work to earn their trust and their respect. And male or female, you had to do that. And I would have been very focused on that. And in terms of my approach and our approach on board the ship, I would have had approximately 5 females most of the time that we were at sea out of a crew of 40 something. I would hope that people who sailed with us would have known that, everyone worked hard on board and standards were high, but
everyone was there in
there
their
was a
merits.
zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a zero tolerance for anything where somebody would be, treated differently for any reason. So I think now again, I hope, I've never heard to the contrary, but that was the ethos we took on board. You worked hard, the basic standard was you did your job to the best of your ability. And then we all worked together on that basis. And as I said, trust is earned. It wasn't automatic. The rank was automatic. The power was somewhat automatic, but the trust and the respect was earned.
Yeah, and we're speaking to you in your context of your career, in the Irish Navy. But everything you've said there, even maybe sometimes self-doubt or maybe setting, bars artificially higher for yourself than they might need to be. It could be in a multinational. It could be in your own small business. It could be in your startup. It's your ethos that you have within your business. So you can see, I can see very clearly why what you have to say on Thursday 26th will be relevant. Because it's all relevant. It's all relative and relevant.
Absolutely. And actually, in the last 6 years, and particularly, I suppose, the last 3 years, I've done a huge amount of work with small business owners, a lot of startup scale up. And most of those people, I would say 100% of them almost, they're extremely high performers. Like, you don't go out on that path unless you're going to drive hard. And probably the biggest challenge for both myself when I was in the military and for a lot of the people I work with is that you're pushing yourself too hard and your standards are too high. And, whilst you have to throw everything at it when you start, there's a moment in time when you've got to bring that balance back in. And I think a lot of the work that I do at the moment, both, coaching senior executives and working with senior leadership teams, is that trying to find that balance, working really, really hard, doing everything you can to get your business going and getting it up and running, but then realizing when, that treadmill that's been at 100 kilometers an hour and you've been sprinting, when do you step it back and when do you try and bring it back to a steady pace?
Well, having the right people in position that you can trust, which is again,
and giving them the reins, which can be the hardest part.
Which again is vital in the military. Fascinating. Yeah. I'll thank you for joining us and remind listeners just as I say goodbye of the event. But Marie, thank you very much for chatting to me. I really appreciate it. Take care. That's Marie Gleeson, former captain in the Irish Navy. She is the keynote speaker at an event being run by the Donegal Women in Business Network. It's their special summer solstice, and it's on Thursday, the 26th of June at Oakfield Park in Refoso, a beautiful setting. If you want more information on that, by the way, go to donegalwomeninbusiness.com and you will find that there. Let me go to some of the comments coming in so far this morning. A caller says, should we create two types of schools instead of just courses, those for the academic and those for the practical students? It would create a much better school environment. The LCA, though, Leaving Cert replied, does that not put more emphasis, and pardon my ignorance, does that not put more emphasis maybe on, those who are stronger in other areas? A caller says, Joe Kelly's a breath of fresh air. Every time he's on Highland, he must be a fantastic teacher. So much common sense, a wealth of information. Well done, Joe. That comes in from Marion Desertegny. A caller says the government can find houses for thousands of young men coming into Ireland with no problems. Just saying, but it's not houses they're in, it's hotels and, 12 to a house and stuff. It's that's without a doubt, people have concerns about that, and that is something that a lot of people have issues with, and I'm not in any way taken away from that, but that's not going to fix our homelessness problem. It's a focus on it that will fix that. How long is this defective block scandal going to continue? What does the government need to do to convince the people that they simply don't want the scheme to work? When there was a problem in Dublin with defective blocks some years ago, it was sorted out almost overnight. Discrimination or what? And go back to the Ditch article where there was some FOI information about potentially the scheme being purposefully complicated to discourage huge uptakes in it. Paraphrasing, but, some will feel that that's the case. Hi, Greg. The cars that diff all night and rallying, disturbing everyone. These guys sleep themselves and their own families, usually in peace. The solution is find where they live, record all their noise, and then play it outside their homes through large speakers. I bet their parents would make them behave after a few nights of this, perhaps. Okay. Now, Mark McEnroe received the murder threat maximum sentence in a recent court case, which I'm going to talk about. The convicted rapist threatened and harassed three female Sunday World journalists. He was jailed for 11 years, 53 years of age. He refused to enter a bond before a sitting of Dublin Circuit Criminal Court, which would have suspended the final 12 months of the 11-year sentence imposed for the harassment of Nicola Tallant, Amanda Brunker and Deirdre Reynolds. Sorry about the convoluted intro there. I'm joined by Deirdre Reynolds, Sunday World columnist. Deirdre, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Greg, for having me on. Appreciate it.
As much as you're comfortable in talking about it, Deirdre, I certainly don't want to make you go through something again that you wouldn't, nor could I. But what was your experience at the hands of McEnroe?
Okay, so it goes back to about August 2023 when I started getting messages out of the blue from him, and I had no knowledge of him, never met him before, never even heard of him before. And he essentially started by kind of asking me out, and then within a very short frame of time, the messages became very sexually explicit, very threatening, culminating in him threatening to pump me full of bullets. And throughout this, he was referring to himself as a powerful god and an IRA top boy and various things. And so again, I kind of, because we, as you know yourself, like as a journalist, you get a lot of emails. Some of them are cranks. Most to date, they've all been cranks, thankfully. But there was just something different about these emails. There was sort of red flags all over them. I was very uncomfortable with them. So it was like the first time I've ever kind of gone to my editor and said, do I need to do something about this? And he agreed that they were unusual, to say the least. So we took it to the guards. And then after that, he actually did show up at the Sunday World offices. So we knew then that he was a serious individual, I suppose.
And how soon did it become clear to you that you weren't the only one, that he was waging this campaign against other women?
Yeah, I think it was the day he turned up at the office, because that's when we sort of did a bit of a deep dive into his history, I guess, and realised that, you know, we joined the dots. Obviously, myself and Nicola work in the same office, and Amanda was formerly a Sunday World as well. So we'd all know each other, but we didn't, I don't think, manage to join the dots until that particular day, and then figure out that there were three of us. And I would say at least three, because it's my belief that he may have been targeting many more female journalists, and they just may not know about it, because a lot of the time your emails might go into your spam or your junk folder. So I'd well believe that there are women out there, maybe in RT or 2FM or wherever, that he may have targeted as well. I say that not to scaremonger, but just because he actually told me, and one of the main kind of driving forces for me actually reporting it was not out of kind of concern for myself, but the fact that he had told me he had a list of 30 girls, in his words, that he intended to target if I didn't sort of accede to his requests.
Listeners will know McEnroe previously of Letterkenny had been sentenced before for really nasty crimes. He was his previous convictions included the rape of a foreign student in Donegal in October 2010, for which he was sentenced to 9 years in prison in 2012. McEnroe also has a 1989 conviction for kidnapping and conviction of assaults causing actual bodily harm. So this is a person with form. When did you find out about his background? And certainly we know capable of very, very bad things.
It was that case in Donegal, actually, unfortunately, that I read about first. And I have to say I felt physically sick when I read it, because it was just a horrendous attack. And I've been thinking about that woman a lot ever since, because, you know, we're not victims in the sense that he didn't actually manage to get to us, but there are a lot of women out there that unfortunately have been attacked by him, including that young woman who was only 19 at the time in Donegal. And when I read that and realised he was a registered sex offender, I thought, my heart just sank and my stomach dropped, or whatever you want to say. And exactly as you say, he's been in and out of prison since 1989, essentially. He has serious mental health issues. He's schizophrenic, but he refuses to accept that, and he refuses to take medication, and he's also mixing that with cannabis and various other kind of illicit drugs. The maths wasn't mathing for me, because I mean he was sentenced to 9 years for that rape in 2012, I think it was. So you ask yourself, how was he free in 2018 to attack another woman in her home? Then he gets 8 years for that, which was obviously backdated to 2018. But he's out again in 2023, and that's when he targeted us. Now, I know he's been on and off kind of messaging Amanda for many years now while he was in and out of prison. But in my case, it was literally within weeks of being out on probation that he was targeting us then.
And these types of crimes, what rehabilitation was there? I mean, I don't think you switch off for being that type of a person. I don't think 4 or 5 years in a prison changes you. I don't know if it's an orientation or whatever it might be, but, it's really scary to think that the gates of the jail open and he's out again until such time as he's caught doing it to another person. That's not a way, I don't think, to deal with someone who's capable of these types of crimes.
No, I mean, I'm not one of these people that goes along with,
lock them up for either. Okay, yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
I do think that people should have the chance to, if they do the crime, serve the time, be rehabilitated. But exactly as you say, this is a person that, first of all, refuses to accept their condition. Second of all, refuses to accept medical intervention. Like, as you said at the top of the segment, he actually agreed to another year in prison rather than, go along with the terms of probation. So I think a lot of people were shocked at the severity of the sentence, and none more so than me. I was taken aback in court. I thought he would get maybe 2 years, and that again might be backdated to when he went into custody originally. But I actually think it's just a reflection of what you're saying, that, he has been deemed by forensic psychologists as untreatable, and I think they've just accepted now he's a serious danger to society and to women in particular. And I won't say I'm fearful, but I mean, my worry about coming forward about it is that have I now somehow put a bullseye on the back of my back, if he gets out again, is he going to come after me again? But that's just something to worry about in maybe 5 or 6 years.
There's two ways to look at that. Either or it means that you have a very good space to maybe alert the authorities again or what have you. I'm looking at the judge's name, right, and it's Pauline Codd. And I don't want to get myself into any bother here as well, but some of the sentencing we're seeing of late, where there is a decent scope for judges, people getting off for stuff. Well, anyway, I can't say what I want to say, but for the possession of images and all that kind of stuff, right? I wonder if this judge was able to look at this from a different perspective and actually understand, what it must have been like for you and the other two women, and sentenced accordingly.
I think you're probably right, and she name checked me when she was delivering her verdict, which I was a bit surprised by it, because I had said in my victim impact statement that obviously as a woman in the media, we become kind of used to a certain level of trolling, but now it's become something different altogether, where you've had people like Helen McEntee and Mary Lou McDonald and Holly Willoughby in the UK are getting these criminal threats of rape, the worst possible thing you could do to a woman next to murder. And I think there was she said that in court, that that this was a message that she was sending out, that there are no specific laws to deal with this, but that there are other laws there that can be invoked. And yeah, I'd love to see more judges invoking the maximum sentences that they possibly can. As you say, far too often, we're seeing people walking out of the court, and that's not what I was expecting. I was steeling myself for that when I went along last Thursday, that he'd be walking out of the court behind me. Maybe there is something to be said, and I won't get in trouble for saying it, you might, but for female judges, I do think female judges look at it through a different lens, maybe, because they probably get it themselves.
It's so important, because what the judge does, this judge did, is send a message out on behalf of society, on behalf of us, right? And then conversely too, then other judges send out messages on behalf of society, or how certain crimes are treated. And I think it's really, really important. And what can come from this? Well, people might be discouraged from this type of activity. I think too, we're very lucky in that not all victims, and have full respect for them, are in a position to speak out and so strongly as you and the other ladies are, Deirdre. So I think that's really invaluable, and I think it hopefully deters men from this activity, but also empowers women to to pursue it through the courts. What else would you like to come from this in that regard, so that, you know, you talked of your empathy for a previous victim of Mackinac, and I suppose it's to prevent future victims. How do we do that? What can we learn from this whole process to make society a better place?
Yeah, but you probably touched on it there, that we just have to keep calling it out. And like, I've been pleasantly surprised. To be honest, I didn't think it was going to blow up in this way at all. I thought, you know, he might get a little slap on the knuckles, because originally when I reported it, I didn't know about his history, of course. So I was a bit naive in that I didn't even necessarily think it was going to go to court and all the rest. And like that, you know, I didn't expect it to be on the 6-1 News or Virgin Media News or here speaking to yourself today or anything like this. But I've gotten quite a few messages from women say like, oh, fair play or well done, or they feel like more reassured that someone like him is not out on the streets. But on the other side of it, I've also had messages from people saying, you know, that they had a stalker, or they had a bad experience with somebody and they didn't get anywhere with it. And I'm fully aware, like I'm not so green as to think that if I walked into the Garda station, which actually I did on the first day before we got our media liaison officer involved, that I mightn't get anywhere like I did, you know. I might be given short shrift. I know a lot of people told me, like one lady emailed me to say that she had been asked, did she find her stalker attractive? Which is absolutely disgusting. I mean, and I think it's made me a lot more aware, which is probably no bad thing as a journalist, of how victims are treated in court as well, and how the system is sort of weighted in favour of the perpetrator rather than the alleged perpetrator. And I understand people have to have their day in court as well. But, you know, we've had cases in Ireland where women's underwear has been discussed. She was wearing a lacy thong, or she had consumed X amount of alcohol, or different things that have absolutely no bearing on it. And even in court, I was asked, you know, is this not just part and parcel of your job? And I was kind of thinking to myself, being threatened with rape and murder is not part and parcel of my job.
That's an astonishing line of questioning to come at you with. And of course, too, we're still just right now in the heart of the conversation about counselling notes being used as a defence of the accused, which, you know, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm not woke, but I just know none of this stuff would happen to guys. Do you know, that sort of way? Because over generations it would have been eliminated, because, you know, I know that's how I feel. May or may not be true.
I mean, a lot of my colleagues, like my male colleagues, they definitely get the abuse and the trolling, but it's not sexualized in the way that it is towards women, which is the kind of issue.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, Deirdre, thanks so much. Continued success with the career. I'm glad that you've got the justice that you deserve, but also that this person hopefully is out of circulation for a number of years, because, you know, is a person like this person gonna change their behaviour without proper interventions? I don't know. Deirdre, thanks for your time. Take care. Deirdre Reynolds there, who is a Sunday World columnist, of course, and we really do appreciate your time.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Across the world, hunger levels are rising at an alarming rate. Conflict and climate change are leaving families without the food they need to survive, and millions of children are at risk of extreme hunger. Concerned staff are working around the clock, but we desperately need your help. A gift to Concern today can provide the life-saving emergency food children need to survive. Please visit concern.net now and join us in the fight against hunger. Your support will save lives. Thank you.
McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware, with stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre, or online at mccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice, whatever the occasion. McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations.
Hello Sunshine, are you summer ready? Clear vision indoors and sun protection outdoors, whether you're after fashion, function or both. At Louis Walsh, your local family-run opticians, they have a fabulous offer of free stylist sunglasses when you purchase your new glasses from their exclusive range. Call into the team at the Courtyard Shopping Centre, Letterkenny, or call 91 21000 for expert advice on how to keep your eyes healthy this summer. Some terms and conditions apply.
Charge into summer with TUI. Choose from a beach cruise or city break or Mexico flying direct from Dublin. Holiday sorted. TUI, live happy.
Hybrid, plug-in hybrid, electric. Don't get confused. Get excited with Toyota, Ireland's best-selling car brand. At Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles, you get the power of choice. There's our wide range to see, including the Toyota CHR and the all-electric BZ4X, with power-up boosters of up to €3,000 and flexible payment options available. So order now at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. Toyota, built for a better world. T's and C's apply. Best-selling claim based on latest figures.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenny's. Find all your summer essentials from fashion and accessories to beauty and homeware at McElhenny's. Explore more in-store or shop online at mcelhennys.com today.
Cloudy without breaks of rain and drizzle, persistent and heavy at times. Temperatures 13 to 14 degrees. Anne Black messaged on Facebook to say that she had Barry's gloves from that night 40 years ago. Wow, Anne. And Big Tom gave £500 for them. They were fundraising for a local young person. Brendan Maxwell and Father Sean Doherty were all in DCR with Bobby McDade. Okay, Anne, we might give you a buzz on that. You might not speak to me, but sounds fascinating. Hey, have a great Monday. We'll chat to you tomorrow morning at 9.
The 9 till noon show.